flat-based
And
pizza.
we are here. We are here. Yes, hello and welcome to this week's fantasy role-playing game stream here on my channel. Today it is a game called Mithras. Which is a fantasy role-playing game, but it's based on percentile dice. There's no levels in it. There's no real classes in it. Characters can choose from a range of different attributes or skills, and generally they progress in those skills from a starting value, which could be as low as 20%, improving each and every day our adventure up to when they get to over 100. There is magic in the world in the form of thesists, which are like the clerics who have divine miracles that they could perform. There's sorcerers, like magic users. There's also animists and mystics around, and basically there is something called folk magic, which is the basic form of magic, which are by little cantrips that thesists see at prayers, basic prayers, and sorcerers see at cantrips. There's an intense combat system. There's no hit points total as such. It's just hit points via location. So it is quite possible for a character to have their arm, leg or head cleanly cut off in combat, which makes combat very exciting and somewhat dangerous. So anyway, yeah, we're going to be starting a new adventure tonight. The party finished off last week and have just arrived back at a town called Advent in the Realm. Before I give a brief synopsis about what basically is afoot in the campaign, I'm going to allow the players to introduce who they are and who they will be playing tonight. And to start off with, we'll go to Mr. Chugga Wugga.
Hi guys, I'm Chugga. I play Gulliver, the young, short and scrawny apprentice sorcerer who has a mop of ginger hair and a freckly complexion. He is an apprentice in the Order of the Kraken, which is one of the 4 sorcery orders on Odys. His particular order specializes in spells involving communication, transportation, and teleportation. As the sorcerer, Gulliver has the ability to shape his spells to suit his needs. He can change the range, the power of the spell, the number of targets, or he can even combine several spells into one single cast. As you could probably gather, sorcery is the most powerful form of magic in the realm. And I shall pass on to Mr. Pickles.
Sorry, I'm Mr. Pickles. Wow.
I know,
that's a great
it's very hard to carry on from that, but do your best, Mr. Pickles.
I'm Mr. Pickles. I guess I'm the lesser magic caster here. No, I play Barleby Fumus, a theist for the White Moon goddess Amriel, which I will be referencing nonstop. It's my goddess. I'm devoted to her. And in the sense that we don't really have classes, I kind of play more of the diviner role. I'm the one in the group that talks to the gods, and sometimes I'm able to perform miracles that Gulliver would say are lesser magic, I guess. But I also function as having some knowledge of history and some knowledge of monsters, particularly on this continent that we're on. And with that, I'm going to throw the microphone as hard as I can over towards Longshank CPG.
Hi guys, I'm Longshank CPG. I've been knocked out by Pickles. So I play the character called Hengist. He is slightly older, sort of like middle-aged, warrior of the group, decked out in heavy armor. Normally carries sword and shield sort of combo, but his shield has been kind of eaten and dissolved by a giant rock lizard, so he's now currently without a shield. He sees himself as sort of like the protector and bodyguard and warrior of the group. He'd quite willingly throw his life in front of anything that's going to harm Bartleby and Gulliver. Starting to feel that way about Hazra, but Hazra is still pretty new to the group, and he's also recognised that he's a capable warrior himself, so he doesn't feel like he needs to do that sort of thing, but he will if he has to. He's sort of kind of going through, I want to call a revelation or an enlightenment at the moment, because previously if he saw something that was even a minor threat, sword would be out and he'd be hacking it to pieces. Now he's sort of like realizing that he can step back a little bit and assess the situation a little bit more and be a little bit more strategic and tactical, patient. And with that, I'm going to pass it on to the odd man out, maybe back.
Why, thank you. I am very odd. Hi, I'm Medivac, and I play Hazra. He is a nomad scout from the steppes, and he's kind of a little bit new. Well, he's very new to the group, but he's very wary of one person in particular, which is Gulliver, because he carries something which Hazra is a little bit scared of. But since last time we touched this item, he burns all his left arm, and it is now all black, and it will never change from being all black. It's just destroyed his arm. You can still use it, but it's just so he keeps it covered all times. He always wears his face covered unless needing to
blow his nose,
influence somebody or eat. Yes. So he's always in full robes of the steppes. He is a capable warrior. He does tend to be very quiet when he's in cities, as he's completely out of his comfort zone. He's very nervous there. But once he's out in the wilds, he comes to his full personality, and he will lead the way quite confidently and hopefully keep the group safe that way. And with that, I shall pass it on to our lovely GM in Wills.
Thank you. And yeah, so it was really nice hearing your roles coming out, that we've been talking about throughout the week, what everybody's role is in the party, and the players decided, they shared what their actual role is in the party. And I think I've got it, a lot of you mentioned it, but I think I've got it right in Hazra. You're sort of like the survival expert, and also in the last session you were very much the moderator, weren't you, the mediator, keeping everything in order.
Apart.
Yes, yeah. Exactly. And Gulliver, you're more the problem solver. So if there's a problem to be solved, then Gulliver is the one to solve it. Hengist is the protector of the group, although he does act like dashing into combat to save Gulliver last week without even his sword out, but also learning that fighting is not the only thing to do. And Bartleby provides the prophecy, the divine intervention sort of like area for the group, and sort of like keeps their souls safe for their next life, even if they do not believe there could be a next life. So the party are on a big quest, and their big overarching quest is that they're looking for 3 items in order to gain passage to meet a dragon or something called Cassini, who has a very powerful magical item that they need to get to prevent war breaking out across Odes, which is the continent that they adventure in. They need 3 items. The first one they got quite a while back, which was a bracelet, which is on Bartleby's arm and is currently zapping his life force. Sorry, my lights has fallen down. I'll have to adjust it in a second. And the second thing that they went off for was a funeral mask, which they spent some considerable time, 9 sessions, actually getting. And that was a funeral mask that was rumoured to be, via legend, in Hazaret's treasure. And Hazaret was a fierce barbarian warrior, and his treasure ended up being his beloved wife. Anyway, they ransacked, or no, they carefully altered took the funeral mask, and I think Bartleby has that. Is that correct?
Yes, I have it in my backpack, I believe.
Yeah, and then they headed back to Advent. So I'm just going to pop up on the actual screen the map so everybody is aware of what's. Let me just pop this light back up. There you go, that's better. So if you remember, this little cross up here was Matilda's tower that you ported in with via the Blue Order's sort of like magical portal spell. You then travelled to Advent, which is here. The map that belonged to Finiel and Tobias took you along the purple arrow there, across the Dead March swamps and up to the nameless hill down here, which is where you found Hazaret's treasure. Sadly, there was two main people, Ark and Tobias, and Finiel and Laram. Ark was carried off by a wolverine early on in their scaling up the mountain. Tobias ran away near the end of the adventure and sadly met a similar demise as the party found him at the bottom of the hill, minus its head. However, Finiel and who's that woman spy and Laram the barbarian sort of like bodyguard kept with you and journeyed right the way back across the Dead Mars, across here, back to Advent, and we left you last week back at Advent, probably staying in the Wild Wyvern that you actually stayed in before you set off on the quest. And the first thing that we have to do, we have to get out of the way anything that any skill improvements that you would like to do. So remember, if you had a fumble with any roll, then you can automatically just add 1 to that now. Now, I'm trusting you with your character sheets. You know what you're doing, so I'm not going to go through and say exactly what you had. You know, it's completely up to you. I checked beforehand and people have ticked them off, which is good. So first things first, you don't need to tell me anything. Just go through and increase those skills by 1, because that's basically because you fumbled and made a mess of it. People watching the skill, a fumble would be on anywhere between a 98 and 100, depending on the actual score of the skill. Okay, so the second thing that you need to do is decide how you would like to spend your 8 skill points. Now, remember, your skill points could be put onto any skill, but that you've got already. The only new skills that you could actually learn, or new spells or anything like that, in Advent would be something to do with commerce or bartering. If you remember, it's very much like a market town, and last time you were here it was a very grand day because it was the day of the market, and that's why there was no room at any of the inns and taverns. So hopefully you've had a thought about this. Remember that if you wish to increase any of your skills, then the procedure is quite simple. What you will do is tell me in a second which skill you are going to improve with which experience rolls. Remember, you can use the same experience roll on a skill as many times as you wish. So if you want to put it all onto your combat, all 8 rows onto your combat, then that's absolutely fine. If you wish to save any of them, then just make that clear to me, how many you're putting aside to hopefully when you're back in a town, or maybe Lindowe or something like that, to do it. Now, in order to do it, to advance your skill, you will roll a 1d100. You will add on your intelligence, okay, and then it's compared to the skill, and if it's greater, equal or greater to the skill being improved, then you increase it by 1d4 plus 1. I think we're playing. Yeah. And if not, if you don't get higher, then you just increase it by 1. Okay, so the minimum you can do it, if you do it right, is 2. If you make a mess of it, then it's literally going to be just the 1. So you get an increase no matter what. Okay then, so Gulliver, you're up first. Tell me, you've got 8 skill points. You might have others saved, which is absolutely fine. How many of those skill experience rolls are you going to be using, and what skills are they going to be on?
Gulliver is using none of them. And he is saving them until he gets back to Lindowe for learning some more spells.
Okay, so you're quite easy then. So no improvements there for Gulliver.
I had 1% on my folk magic,
Yeah,
which was
that's absolutely fine. Okay, Mr. Pickles, how are you increasing Bartleby's, or how are you using Bartleby's experience rolls?
Okay, I'm going to go with what I've said here. I'm going to save 4. I would like to spend 3 on endurance and 1 on perception.
Okay, and you're using endurance. You're increasing endurance, aren't you? Because it's one of the prime skills for your order. So as they get to all 50%, then that'll be it. So, yeah, so what is your endurance at the moment?
It is currently at a 42.
42. So, and what's your intelligence?
My intelligence is a 14.
14, so you're going to be rolling a d100 and adding 14 to the roll, and we need to get equal or greater to your current endurance.
All right, here's my first roll for endurance.
Yeah, that's above, so that's 1d4 plus 1. So that's 3 points. Okay, so that's 1 roll down. Okay, second roll.
Let me just update this because it's going to be now a 45 that I got to get to increase it. 15.
Yes.
Nice. Doing good.
That's it. So another 1d4 plus 1. That's another 2.
That brings me up to a 47, and this is my final roll for endurance. Come on. Be lucky. No.
Ooh, no. So that'll go up to 48.
Yes.
Yep. Okay, and did you wanted to say
perception?
Okay, what's currently your perception?
My perception is currently a beautiful 28.
28. Okay, then roll away, and that will go up to 29. 29.
Nice.
Excellent. Okay, so over to the combatants of the game. Hazra or Medivac, what are you planning to get Hazra to be working on?
Right, I'm aiming at doing 4, being perception, survival, track, and nomadic survival combat.
Okay, so, and then are you just doing 1 roll on each of those, or are you doing?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Each one each. I'm going to say 4.
Okay, that's cool. So what's going to be your first one that you're going to be rolling on?
We shall do perception.
So currently your perception is
64.
64, and your intelligence is
12.
12. Okay, roll away then. So that will
too short by 1.
Yeah. Yeah, if you can actually put the plus intelligence on. So you can actually yeah.
It's still too short because my
yeah, okay then. So that will just increase by 1. What's your next skill?
My next one is survival, which is 55.
55.
That's good. So you want a 1d4.
Yep. Plus 1. So that's up by 5. No, that's
sorry,
fine.
No, ignore that. That's 5. Oh, sorry, 5. Yes, sorry. So plus 5. And my next one is track, which is 66.
66.
D100 roll. Nope, that's just plus 1.
So that'll go up to 67. And your final one?
My next one is my nomadic, which is 68.
68?
Oh, come on, please. Just for that. No, that's 70. No, just plus 1 on that one.
Just plus 1.
Fantastic.
Okay then. So, and then Hengis.
Mm-hmm. Just to check, how many experience rolls do we have? Was it?
You have 8 from the last adventure.
So I've only got 7. Okay. Right, so the first one I will be doing is athletics.
Okay.
So my current skill is 59.
No. So that'll just go up to 60.
60, yeah. The next one I was going to do is brawn, which is currently at 58.
58. What's your intelligence?
Oh, I forgot my intelligence. Intelligence is 11.
11. So that'll be 52.
So that's not enough.
And that's just add by 1 then.
There we go. So I'll do it this way instead. Well, no, I can do it here. There we go. The next one was going to be endurance, which is at the moment at 57.
Okay.
Yes.
That'll go up. So 1d4 plus 1. So 4 points.
Very nice. That's, the next one's going to be perception because I'm working on that like mad.
Okay.
So my perception is currently 29.
Cool.
Yep.
Yep, that's cool. Another 5. Nice.
18. Okay. Then I was going to work on some combat skills. So Angus is going to have been practicing his unarmed combat.
Okay.
So his unarmed combat is currently at 32.
Okay, so this would be experience roll 5, won't it? 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, 5. Yeah.
No.
Okay, so that'll go up to 33. So 3 more.
Oh, hang on. I put the wrong number in. There we go. He's also going to work on his main combat style. Housecarl, he's currently on 79 for that.
Okay, so you need a nice big roll for that.
No.
No. But that'll go up to
That's made at 80.
80.
So it's
Yeah.
not too bad.
So that's good.
So is that one more left?
You've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, you got 2 more.
No, I've got one more because I have a -1 experience.
Oh yes, you do. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
His final one's going to be on his which he doesn't use very often, but his secondary combat style, the way of the sword. So that's currently at 34. Just want to roll that. Yes.
Cool.
And he gets 4 points on that. So that's me done.
Excellent. Hang on, I'm just trying to work out the command for the cast list. 1 second. You can find all the characters on the website infos.co.uk. Oops. Yeah. There's just people. Somebody in the chat was asking about people's stats. Which I think is a really nice idea to see, so people know who has the most strength and things like that. So I think what I might do is put something up like that. I don't think I'll put all your skills up. I'll probably put the skills that you are proficient in, and what you actually think. So I've got a week off, so I can do that. Okay.
Just a side note.
Yeah.
When I clicked my evade to add my evade fumble, I had another fumble on my list, but it's disappeared. I can't remember what it was. I don't suppose you know what that was, do you?
No, but what I would do...
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, what I would do is just have if you look back over the adventures, it'll come up sometime in there. So.
I believe.
Sorry.
It was insight because you all failed it. You got the 98, and it was just before you said bio. Be my
Hengist got. I'm just looking at it. Hengist, yeah. Hengist and Bartleby got a fumble on their insight.
I think I put that on actually.
Was it? That was last adventure. Yeah. I'm just scrolling up the chat because all the chat is still there. From the last session. So yeah, cool. Okay then. So let's progress. Is there anything that anybody would like to ask before we progress on to today's adventure?
If I invest in a long-term, no, God.
Okay, so several things. Number one, if you actually want to buy anything, then as you know, Advent is quite a commercial rich town, so it will be available, and you'll probably get it at probably cost price from the CRB. So by all means, if there's something that you wish to buy, then just sort of like while I'm talking, just sort of like click it off the check it up on the core rule book and remove it, and then add it, and then just tell me what once we get to that part.
What we do about money from the idol? I know we can't sell it here, but I won't be able to afford to buy what I want, which is a new short spear.
You got Bartleby with you.
I can borrow some of you, can I? Yeah, well, it's like 10,000 gold. That's fine then. Come with me. No, it's not.
I was going to say, because we don't deal in gold in any case.
I just want to see the look on his face.
I'm not.
I'll cover it for you. Okay.
Hengist was wanting to buy some tea leaves because he's been using grass, and everybody's got fed up of grass tea and thing leaves. So he was going to buy some tea, but I can't see it on.
Just look at something that is roughly the same. It's not going to be a huge amount. What it's going to cost. So I'm quite happy. There's no need to go into exact coinage because it's not money's not a huge impact on the game. So little things like how much is your short spear, just out of interest.
I'm just looking now. Give me 2 shakes. I'm near the page. Accommodation, clothing, livestock, siege weapons.
200.
I know. I still
How
want
much?
trebuchet.
Yeah.
In was
no,
want a
20.
trebuchet, but I want a trebuchet.
Yeah, your short spear is 20 silver pieces.
Right.
It's
I've
your
got 16.
it's your silver. It's your scimitar that is actually 200 silver pieces.
That's fine. Then. Yeah, no, I've got 16 silver, but as it's been made, I want to put my little bit of blood in there as well as I said.
Yeah, well, the thing is, Bartleby, since you said that you were going with to help Hazra out, could you just roll either a commerce skill or bartering skill, whichever you have, and we'll go from there.
Commerce.
Yeah, so Bartleby does some talking and some fast talk with the vendor, and you actually get the spear for 16 silver pieces.
Wow,
it looks okay. It doesn't look as good as your last one. It probably needs some TLC on it. The blade looks quite blunt in places, but you're quite proficient in using a short spear. You know how to look after them, so it's something that you're probably busy yourself, on the evening, sort of like sharpening it up, etc., etc. So Hengist could quite easily go out and buy some tea. Is there anything else that anybody else would like to buy?
He was going to try and find a kettle of some sort if possible as well, so we don't have to cook it in the same cooking pot
I think there's a
Gulliver uses that goes on his head.
Yeah, so just add it on as a cooking pot, I think, and make sure that you add on the encumbrance for that.
Yeah.
Is anybody else buying anything else that we need to make sure is in place now?
No, I've got enough bandages, and I think we never used our. I've still got my. Oh gosh, lantern, haven't I? With the oil flash, that's good. Yep.
Yep. Okay then. Anyone else? No. Are you replacing your shield, Hengist?
No, he hasn't got enough money for that.
Okay then.
He didn't bring that much. He only brought like 20 silver pieces with him, so he hasn't got anywhere near.
What kind of shield was it?
It was a heater.
Yeah, heater. Yeah, because that's about 150 silver pieces.
You can't even afford a buckler, so
yeah, a buckler would be 50 silver pieces.
Yeah, but you can't afford that.
Okay, then, cool. Okay then, so you sort of like settle back into life at Advent, and you are beginning to wonder. You sort of like heal up your wounds, so they will all be fixed if you took any minor wounds of anything, and you're staying in the Wild Wyvern, and you've been there for a couple of days, resting and recuperating, getting your strength up, and you've got to the stage of thinking, what will you do next? Where will you be going, and what's your plan going to be? Because as you are probably aware, you are over the other side of the continent. You're nowhere near Lindowe, and it really depends what you would like to do and where you would like to go. So you're currently in the Wild Wyvern. You've got your favourite table, and you're almost like becoming one of the regulars here, and you're sort of like busy chattering away and enjoying the sort of like the downtime, and it's at that point that you're sort of like sat down, as you are now, having a chat about what you think your next actions would be.
Just on a side note, I thought I was in there because my token was a lot bigger than everybody else's, unlike last time when it was a lot smaller.
Yeah, no, I just like to increase you up and down, so don't worry about it.
Yeah. Who owns the Wyvern? It wasn't Tobias, was it?
No, isn't it Briggins?
No,
I was hoping coming down ours.
Piggins.
Yeah. Mr. Piggins who owns it. During the last 2 days, Gulliver wants to have, if possible, sort of gone round and asked questions. Maybe even asking Mr. Piggins and maybe asking some of the merchants in the town, especially the ones that come from. Is it Cinder? Silder. He wants to find out whether or not there's any of the order, any of the magical orders, the sorcery orders present in Cinder.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need to make a roll about that. The actual presence of the orders over this side of the continent is not as advanced as in Lindowe. Lindowe is obviously their central base, being the capital of the continent. Their people do comment, merchants that you talk to, etc., do comment that there is a magical presence in Sildar, just the same as there is, Bartleby, a more religious presence in Sildar, although they tend to be more of the human gods rather than the original gods. If you remember, there's two different sort of like Parthenons about them. So yes, there is a presence in Sildar, but not a huge one, not as much as Lindowe. There might only be one order and a couple of churches, rather than in Lindowe there's a bit about, everything is covered.
So Gulliver's going to say, well, it's a long way back to Lindowe, and I don't know what options that we have available for us. We obviously can't use Matilda's tower again.
Okay, can you not take us back through the tower like they sent us here in the first place? Or?
I'm just an apprentice, Hasra. You need to be a lot higher up in the order to be able to activate the portals. If you remember, when we used the portal last time, and when we got attacked, there was actually somebody there who would have been able to open it. But I also had the magical stone, which I could use to communicate with Mistress Duncan, but I don't have that now.
I understand. So
I've asked around in the town, and there might be one of the order at Sindar, but I don't know whether or not. I don't think there'll be a portal there, because if there was a portal there, they probably wouldn't have risked sending us to. Did you get it?
I got it.
Excellent.
Sorry.
they probably wouldn't have risked teleporting us into Matilda's.
I understand. I am a little bit. This is different for me. So I don't know. I'll just sit here and.
Well, what's the? Do we know what the terrain's like in between Advent and Lindowe, and how many leagues it is to get there?
I assumed we were a fair distance away, since we had to use your Kraken friends to get us here. But
sorry, just to interrupt there. If you imagine, probably the continent is, say, about the width of modern day the United States or the top part of Africa, it's quite a considerable distance. You could have. I mean, it would have probably taken years and years to actually cross via caravan and, riding, or in your case, walking across the continent. It would have been totally and utterly ridiculous, So it was purely that there was a portal that actually made the trip possible.
Road trip!
Do we have any leads on the talk? With where would we need to? Because I'd assume that's what we need next on our journey.
That is a very good question, there, ex-Count Angist.
I don't know. I mean, should we ask around here? Phinia was very adamant that we shouldn't draw attentions to ourselves and the quest for Hazoret's treasure.
No, didn't you say not to try to sell the bust here? But perhaps we could find here, without selling anything, perhaps somebody who was like that strange old man in Indus. The one who had all the maps and
that was Sylvester.
Perhaps there maybe is somebody like him here.
If not, Sildar might. As being a bigger town, they might have more merchants and libraries or something that you two look in.
I think Sildar is probably that. I bet they might even have a library if they're a bigger town, especially if there's part of the order there. It may well be that they would have a.
And perhaps we could try and sell the treasure there.
We get an idea of where the next bit of the treasure is. I think we also need to look at getting back.
Getting back is good, but I also think that perhaps we need to help Mr. Bartleby as his Amriel god, who's a beautiful woman, which we have to help him, definitely. So we need to find about the talk too, but I don't know what to say. I'm going to sit here, I'm going to look at my ale, and I'll wait for you to decide.
I didn't think that there was much need for us to decide. Amriel, of course, will lead the way.
Has she told you which way to go?
Out of game, has Bartleby had time to pray, perhaps, to Amriel to get some insight onto what to do? What she requests?
I think you are probably always praying and being open for Amriel's prophecies and visions, but quite in her normal fashion, from being either completely cryptic to being incredibly silent. She is currently on the in the phase of being silent. You do recognize, however, that Amriel is not in her greatest power at the moment. The dark moon is more stronger, as they naturally exchange places and positions of power within the heavens. So it would be quite normal that Amriel is taking almost like a back seat, during this time, because she is sort of like waxing and waning and sort of like going out, and she'll be back up probably later on in the month.
What I think we should do, I think we should. There's always going to be caravans travelling between here and Lindowe. I think we should maybe enlist as guards on a caravan and travel to Sinda and then see whether or not, with it being a bigger town, that we can find out some information either about how to get back to Lindowe or about the next bit of the treasure that we need to find.
I believe that's a fine idea.
I agree. That sounds a very good idea. The bigger the place, the more answers could well be there.
And we can make some coin by being a caravan guard too, and coin is very scarce at the moment.
Okay then, so you sort of like retire for the evening with this plan the next day to actually venture out into Advent and see whether or not there's any merchants or caravans setting off for Advent, travelling northward to Sildale, and whether or not you can actually gain some kind of purchase or occupation on that caravan. So just out of interest, which sort of like skills are you planning on using, and who's going to be the major spokesperson for things like this?
Bartleby has oratory.
Okay.
If we want to make a big show about the awesomeness of our troop and how we could fight off monsters.
So if you are required to give a speech to a group of merchants, then oratory would be the appropriate skill to use there. Yeah. Anyone else?
Well, I mean, it's probably not as well known in this part of the land, but Gulliver wants to try to make it known that he's a sorcerer of the Order of the Kraken, and hopefully that might be enough to enlist him. If not, then he's quite willing to help around the caravan.
I think
I was going to try to use my track and survival to increase either whoever's going to speak towards.
Yeah, understandably. So I think what will actually happen is that there will be like an influence role, and to try to influence the captain of the caravan whether or not you're allowed to have passage on it. And then I'm quite happy for, as you're saying there, you know, that Hazra, you can add on 1/20th of your whatever skill that you sort of like want to add to it, you know, and for example, Bartleby, you might add commerce to it, you know, in the sense that you're going to add a small percentage onto the roll, but then it'll need somebody to sort of like in the end do that roll. Okay, so who's the best with
Gulliver will do it.
Okay, so Gulliver's going to do the roll. So if you let Gulliver know what, so it'll be it's actually twice your critical will be 20% of it, sorry, not 1/20 of 20%. So if you think it's if you find your critical is a 10th, so, and that should be on the skill. If you open the skill up, it should tell you what your critical chance is, or you can work it out as just 1/10, and then if you just sort of like double it, and then you can give that to Gulliver as a dice roll. So what will be happening is that you're sitting down, meeting a whole load of merchants, and when Gulliver's trying to influence them to actually take you on board, there's also you're sort of like chipping in and saying, I am a really good tracker, I will be able to help you this, I know a lot about merchant stuff, I'll be able to help the caravan like that, and that sort of
mentioned the healing and
yeah, so it's up to, and so each of the characters, so Bartleby, Hengist and Hazra, you can choose your one skill that you actually want to use to augment Gulliver's role. Okay.
Would that include combat styles? Because Hengist would probably start boasting of how good a warrior he is.
Yeah, so if you're, what you will be saying is not, you will be saying that you are prepared to guard the caravan.
Yeah.
And that's what you're saying. People are not saying how good they are. You're almost like saying how you could support the
Yeah,
caravan.
that's what I mean. But would it be combat style, or would it have to just be a skill? Is what I'm asking.
Well, your combat style is a skill in any case.
That's right.
Yep. So I would be adding a plus 14 to
Okay, and what are you offering?
tracking.
Tracking. Thank you.
I was tempted to go survival or customs, but I'm sure they know the customs.
I mean, maybe survival, because you'll be putting in, sort of like
food. Well, in that case, I'd a 12. In that case, I totally agree, because they know the way to where we're going. So
I mean, they've probably made the journey on several.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. If you were going to say tracking, just so you know, I was not going to count it towards the roll. So changing it to survival is probably a good thing. Yeah.
This is a very good thing, Gully. Well said.
Hengist and Bartleby, what are you contributing?
So it would be, so if the critical is the same as Herculean, then it would be 16.
And what service are you providing?
Oh, he's saying he's happy to. He's such a good warrior. He's happy to help guard the caravan from any bandit raid.
Guard again.
So you will say that you will act as a protector of the caravan. Yeah. And what about Bartleby?
I mean, I'm going to be mentioning Amriel, but my primary argument is the healing skill, which would be 45, which goes down to a 9. I'm a healer, and my goddess will protect us.
Excellent. So that's healing. And Gulliver, you'll be able to augment your role with one of your skills as well. So what skill are you bringing to the caravan?
So Gulliver's going to mention his ability to cast spells. So his sorcery.
Yeah. So what service are you providing the caravan? So Hazra is going to be providing a service of providing food, etc. Protection via spells.
Spell casting, yes.
Okay then. Yeah, they're quite suspicious of spellcasters in any case. So, and they're not too sure how you're actually going to provide that, unless you wish to give a demonstration of what you can do. If you wish to give a demonstration, then you can add it.
Okay, so as we're sat there. And
so you're going to be going. This is. I know we're still in the taverns, but this is going to be tomorrow. So you're going to be going round to stalls and shops round Advent, sort of like approaching them and saying, do you have any merchants heading back to so and so? Can we join them? And Hazra will say, I can sort of like help with this, that, and the other.
I mean, if it's something that's going to be happening on the streets, then Gulliver won't do a demonstration of.
Okay then. So in which case, you should know now what your positives are, and so if you roll it, and we'll just do one roll.
The total.
I don't know. Sorry, I was just writing down what people's rolls were, as in ROLE. Right. What their rolls were ready for the rest.
What was yours, Hazra? 12. Longshanks?
16.
Yeah, 28.
9.
37.
Yeah. Okay then. So pop that onto your skill, and then roll your dice.
And this is influence, yeah?
Yeah. You still got your fatigue on, which shouldn't be on, but that's absolutely fine. Yeah, and it's interesting that you there's several people who there's merchants actually going back up north. Some of them are going all the way. Some of them are stopping off at various other towns that you sort of like get the feeling that you might be able to then piggyback and pick up another caravan. Unfortunately, not unfortunately, it's quite acceptable. There are nobody's sort of like leaving today. It's sort of like the next week when they'll be leaving out. So it'd be like almost like a week's time. But there's several merchants who organise caravans, really sort of like interested in the skills that you are using. And it's while you're out and about that an urchin, and if you remember the urchins in here, and as you see it coming running up to you, everybody sort of like quickly puts their hands on their coin purses, you know, because you have been caught out with these little merchants. And this little girl who looks about 8 or 9, quite dirty, quite raggedy looking, sort of like comes up to you and hands you a piece of paper. It's a piece of parchment that is just simply folded in half, and she sort of like thrusts it out to you, and she says, "I've been told to give you this."
Gulliver will take it off her.
Yeah, and as soon as you take it off her, she just turns around and scampers off, as if the job has been fulfilled, you know. And she's obviously rushing back to gain some money or some coinage for the simple task that she's actually done. Yeah.
Interesting. Wasn't it Finiel that used the urchins as a go-to?
She did, yes.
I think if it's anything like any town, I think most people would actually use them to do little menial jobs. Let's see what it is. Is it parchment? Is it?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. He's going to open it and.
Yeah, so you can read it because it's you and Bartleby that has a reading skill, but it's written in quite basic common, so that there's no sort of like issue of you actually having to decipher it. But it is written in what appears to be almost like telegram style, as we would call it. It's very stilted, and it's sort of like a series of sentences or words grouped together going down the page, and it starts off by literally saying greetings, okay, and that's on the first line, and then on the next line it says strangers asking questions ? Then it says meet us tonight. It then says food and wine, and then there's a little picture. Okay, there's a little picture, and the picture, I'll just moving you back onto the map, indicates, can you see where number 7 is on the map?
Yeah.
The one in the northeast. This one up here.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, sorry, there's several 7s, and that's why I said the northeast one. So yeah, and it's sort of like there's a rough map. It doesn't look as well created at this one, but you can make out that there's sort of like that sort of like general area with a little arrow next to it, and it just sort of like says meet here after sunset.
Is it?
And then it's signed Finiel.
I was going to hand it to hand a note to Bartleby.
Bartleby will read it and go, well, I guess we are going to be seeing our old friend again. Finiel, guys. I don't fully understand, but it sounds like if there's food and wine.
I don't know. It seems I'm a suspicious nature. I mean, she's saying people are strangers are around, and she's offering food and wine. But why would she need to say food and wine?
I'm assuming, Gulliver, that you've read it out. Because Hazra and Hengist can't actually read, I don't think. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So why should she waste the paper, this parchment or whatever it is, by saying food and wine? She could simply say come and meet me at. There's people inquiring about blah blah blah. Come and meet me. I don't know. It sounds a little bit suspicious to me. But maybe that's my nature. I'm sorry.
Hospitable.
I don't know. I don't know how things work here.
I think the thing that we should be concerned about is that people are asking questions about us because, well, we're a long way from Lindowe, and unless they've come through the portal that Matilda had, then nobody knows that we're here.
That's very true.
On the parchment, is it strangers asking questions as a statement or strangers asking questions as a question?
It says strangers asking questions, ? It's not written ? There's actually the symbol of a question mark.
Might just be a question, guys. Might just be a friendly meet and greet and get some food and wine, maybe some cheese.
I think we should go.
I don't know. I think she may be greedy and she maybe want to take our share. She's awfully nice when we were out there on the way, to get back here. But to send this out of the blue, and it's not. It's a question. Strangers asking questions? ? Is that how you like they're asking questions, or is she asking us whether strangers are asking questions?
I think, Hazra, one way to find out would be to ask her tonight.
To go.
And also, sorry, Hazra, remember your command over the language, the written language of Common probably wouldn't actually go that far.
Yeah, true, sir. I will bow to whatever you decide. Just, I will, yes.
Would it make you feel better, Hazra, if I prayed for Amriel to protect you on this dinner date?
Dinner date.
I'll pray for protection. I don't want you getting poisoned.
If Amriel, I'm always glad to see.
I would like to start making a big show of praying for him, taking minutes if I can.
Yes, by all means, roll your folk magic. Yeah.
And that, guys, is how you get free protection.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. So just remember, Hazra, you've got protection on you until I say it's dropped or you use it. Okay, because remember last time everybody forgot it was on until I sort of thought, what's that symbol on Gulliver's character?
It's 1d3, isn't it?
Yeah. It will absorb 1d3 worth of damage to any location. Yeah. Okay then. So you head back to the Wild Wyvern, and you sort of which is number 6 on the actual map if you're interested, and you head back, and it's interesting that when you actually get back there are 3 people have left messages for you, and Mr. Piggins sort of informs you that merchants have been asking about your rates and will you be available for the travel in the next week? Should they still look for different people, or are you all going to prepare to provide your services for their next caravan route? Out of the 3 offers, there's only one that seems to be going to Sildar. However, it is the longest one to get there. It does actually get there, but it looks like it's going through most of the towns and villages on the way there. So it's obviously, it will get there in the end, but it's very slow. The one of them is going to the river, and then it says that you'll be able to pick somebody up from the river and to carry on upwards. And the third one says that it wasn't going to go to Sildar at all, but it is prepared to go and make the journey if you accompany them on the caravan. So just to briefly reiterate that, so one's going directly to Sildar but will take a long time. One's only going to the river. Goes direct to the river, but then it's heading west down to Westport, which is actually a town on the coast. And the third one wasn't going to go to Sildar at all, but was so impressed with the skills that you could provide, are willing to change their plans and take their caravan up there. The first one is quite a big caravan. It has 7 carriages on it and 7 wagons. The second one, the one that's going to the river, then going to Westport, is about 5. And the final one that is going to alter it is only 2, maybe 3. It looks like it's a very small town, merchant caravan, and probably one that hasn't really been to Sildar, but is probably using your expertise to actually get it there. And most of them are talking about meeting you tomorrow morning sometime.
I think we need to decide which one we're going to go with. I don't think the one that isn't going to Sildar is really an option. It might be quicker travelling by the river, but there's no guarantee that we're going to find anybody going to Sildar once we hit the river. So I think we either go with the big one or go with the smaller one. It seems weird that the smaller one wasn't actually going to go to Sildar, but they will if we want to.
I'd like to go back to my old grandmother, who used to say, slow and steady is better than the rushing and not getting there at all.
Sorry, I forgot to give you the names of the people in charge of the caravan. So the one that's going directly to Sildar, but a roundabout route, is actually a female merchant called Miss Glowweb. And the one that is turning west and then heading out to Westport is called Master Treehorn. And then the one that is going... isn't going anywhere, wasn't going to go to Sildar, but will go now, is called Master Wagon Train. You figure these are probably names to either talking about either their occupation or their exploits, or maybe made up to give a certain prestige or information about the caravan. They're probably called Jane, Jane, Bert, and Dave when you meet them in person, but that's who sent you the messages.
I suppose the caravan under Master Wagon Train might get there the quickest, because it will make the best time with it being a smaller caravan.
But isn't that the one who said he wasn't going there in the first place?
And relying on our expertise to help them get there.
Yes, I mean that's very true. I mean, it's north, isn't it? It's above where Advent is, so maybe I could.
Yeah, sorry. If I'll put you back on the map so you can see the surrounding area.
So maybe it's his first journey there. I didn't think of this myself because I'm stupid. Maybe he just needs somebody to show him the way the first time, and then he will know the way the next times.
Well, you can see from the map. Can you see that map now?
Mm-hmm.
There is a trail. There's from joining Advent to Sildar. So you wouldn't have to. The only thing that you would have to do, Hazra, is that if at any point the trail disappears, then you would have to do tracking or survival roll, or if you decided to do something like travel through the night or something like that.
The one that's going to the river, is that the river that's just the big one? That's just
the River South Vale. Yeah, so they're going here, and you figure that they are probably then transferring their goods to barge or some kind of boat, and then taking the South Vale River through to Westport, which is actually on the coast, off to the west, obviously.
Because that one, looking at the map, is still I think, a viable one because it's not that actually far. The river's not actually that far from Stilda, so we could walk that quite
No,
safely on our own.
It's like a half a day.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can actually walk 30 kilometres in a day. So you'll probably be able to see Sildar from the river if you chose to do it. Your major journey would be travelling from Advent to almost like to the river. The other thing that is not on your map is the number of towns or villages that are actually by the road or on the road. It doesn't have that much detail on it.
Alternatively, if we went with the one that admittedly is going slower, we might be able to have more exposure to the countryside and the other people. We could ask more questions about the area and find out more about the lore and the history of the area, and maybe they know of something about the talk. That's another opportunity.
That's
Is this Hengist saying that? Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is Hengist saying that.
Right.
Sorry, I haven't got a voice for Hengist.
That's a very good point. God, Hengist, yes.
we can spread the love of Amriel as we wander the countryside.
And then there's also safety in numbers.
True, but big numbers are big targets.
But big targets are also usually the heaviest defended.
Well, and my vote's for Miss Glowweb's train.
I think the other thing with Miss Glowweb is that it's a very big caravan, and that they're stopping off for everywhere. It's going to take ages.
But we don't terribly have many engagements other than to find the torch for Amriel.
To be fair,
From insects and plagues and chaos beasts and that doesn't sound all that.
yes, my other concern thinking now is how you're feeling, Mr. Bartleby. Are you okay in yourself?
A lot better than Mr. Webber does. Sorry.
Spoilers!
That hurt and was
Sorry.
right here. No, it's okay. I feel concerned more than anything. But
Do you think that speed? Are you holding your well? But do you think speed is the essence, or I don't know. I'm just gonna I'm across, but I do think slow and steady is good because it's as Ex-Guard Hengi said, there is safety in numbers. We have a large caravan. I know we stop at every place, and yes, you could spread the word of Amriel to every town we go through, and maybe Mr. Gulliver could find that information on the way from the towns. But on the other side, then getting there as quick as possible to Silda maybe a good thing because we don't know how much time you have.
That's true.
I think we're just going round in circles. We'll put it to a vote, and whichever one has the most, that's the way that we'll go.
Well, no, we don't need to vote. You decide. You tell us what to do, and then we can tune in next week to see where we've gone.
you are. Oh, sorry, Angus.
No, that's all right, Bartleby. What were you going to say?
That Gulliver wields great power and great wisdom. If anybody here is better to make a decision like this, I mean, do speak up. Amriel is silent, so...
I do believe, Mr. Bartleby, I agree.
I won't be to blame if it goes wrong, though, will I?
You're the problem solver.
Hang on, let me say, no?
I'm sure nobody will hold Gulliver accountable for anything.
I still have Master Wagon Train.
Say again, sorry.
Master Wagon Train?
Go with Master Wagon Train.
Okay then, so they will be coming around tomorrow morning, so they'll probably meet you in the tavern to arrange final arrangements and maybe discuss about price and cost, and what your duties would be expected to be, and how that's going to offset the travel arrangements there, whether or not you're going to pay 50% of your travel because 50% is going to be in services, or whether or not you're going to be fully in service to the caravan, so they will literally be in charge of you for the journey.
Was there
However,
any information from them on what was being what they were transporting?
No, what you assume it is some kind of commerce
Right.
goods, but it'd be a good question to ask them at the meeting tomorrow when they come around to discuss final arrangements. So I think that'll be a good question to ask at that meeting. However, it is coming to sunset, and it's past sunset now, so it is the time that you should be heading out to meet to go to Finiel's soiree that she's providing for you.
Having spent a couple of days already in Advent, do we know what is in the area where we're going?
Yeah, it
What
seems
type of district it is, or
yeah, well, you know that in any case, because you've been around this area in any case, so you know that it's not the up and coming places to be. It's quite slummy, but in the sense that it's full of shops, and a lot of people have their accommodation either behind the shop or above the shop, and so the ground floor tends to be put over to commerce and bartering or making something, and then up above it or further along in the back, if it's an extremely long building, tends to be more of the residential, but it's very simple. It's sort of like one room with like a curtain that goes across to hide the bunk beds and things like that. It's not sort of like an expansive house that you remember from number 3, I think. Where the purple cross is, which was Tobias's house, which was quite
our house, yes.
yeah, which was quite flash.
but we also know that Finiel hangs about in the sort of like the southwestern area of the town.
That's what you were led to believe.
Right. Okay.
That is the gate we came in, wasn't it? The one. To the
No,
right.
you came
No,
in
it
the
was this
one
one.
down at the bottom.
Oh, sorry. Right. Okay.
That's the one that you came into. Yeah, and because I think number 4, isn't that the something like the Golden?
Yes.
Golden Eagle.
Yeah, Golden Eagle pub. Yeah, or bar. Sorry. And I think there was a fight in that one. If I
That was the one that the prostitute was.
yes, yeah, yeah. So okay, so
the
you
lady of the night.
yeah, so you sort of like make sure that you're looking quite respectable. You don't want to be turning up for a dinner date not looking respectable. And you remember Finiel as somebody who is very when she wasn't on the road, she wasn't a hobo or anything like that. She was very well dressed, tight clothes that will allow, but still allow her to move. And if you remember, she was she had a fondness to knives and daggers. And then Laram was that big hulking barbarian sort of like type that had muscles on muscles, and if you remember, he wielded a two-handed hammer. He also had javelins by his side. Okay, and you head off to number 7, and as you sort of like walk round there, they're starting to light the street lanterns, that hang outside people's shops. The shops are shutting down now because once night falls, there's not a lot of trade, and you can see that people are generally shutting doors and sort of like making ready for the night, and settling down. And you sort of like arrive roughly in the area of 7, and you're sort of like stood around, and I presume you're waiting for either Laram or for Finiel to approach you?
Yeah, I mean, on the journey from the Wyvern, Gulliver wants to keep an eye out behind him, especially with what the note said about strangers asking questions. He wants to see whether or not we're being followed as we.
Okay, so you can roll. Do you have?
I was thinking of having using my sort of like maybe a combination of either my streetwise and my perception.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the present moment in time, because there's 4 of you, I think you can roll your streetwise, because that will take into account looking in any case. One thing I do need you to do, you can use the pen tool. Can you just draw a line for me, please? So you're currently at number 6 and you're going to number 7. I just need to know roughly the path that you're taking.
Okay, so we'll probably come out the main door, come down. Almost like we're going towards.
Are you drawing now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can't see it there. I can see it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all right. Yeah. Okay. Then that's absolutely fine. So roll your streetwise skill for me. Do you wish to use any luck? Remember, your luck people are up to. They've refreshed.
Yeah, I'll use a point of luck and re-roll it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, you sort of like keep an eye out, and you do classic things like stopping and peering in a shop window or chatting to people as you go around. And I mean, you do notice urchins around the place, and you are aware that these actually work for Finiel, but they don't seem to be following you. And if you remember last time, it was quite obvious that they were following you, and they were sort of like passing it off to different people, different groups of urchins, and you were very much aware of that. That doesn't seem to be happening at all. Could you all roll for me, please, a perception roll? Right, I just need to go back because they all come up really quickly. So that's that. Okay then.
I'm just thinking I should have gotten flowers.
Sorry, does anybody want to alter the roll at all for fire luck?
No.
No, okay.
I will. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, so...
I'll just reverse it to 35.
Yeah, okay then, so that's not a problem.
Didn't you have a standard roll anyway?
I think it's a hard.
I want to make it, yeah.
Okay, this is, just to let you know, this is coming to you, Chugawugga, and Medivac on Discord. Yeah, no, it's coming to Medivac. Hazra will know. Just so you know, I'm going to... You'll be wondering where you saw it. Okay, but sure as I sent it to you, I will ping the map, okay? Okay, have you got that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's actually in this building here. Okay, there seems to be almost like a set of wooden stairs that seem to be going up the outside of the building, and it stops at a door at the top. The door is actually open, and there's a glow of light coming out, and what you saw came out and almost like went up and onto the roof.
Came out of the door?
Well, when you saw it, it was on the landing. almost like the top of the stairs. But you roll your insight rolls for me.
Good luck with this. There we go.
Gulliver, you think, judging by the movement, and you probably saw it slightly before Hazra, you figure it was coming out of the door, but also at some speed.
Okay, it's are there any shops round about where we are?
Oh yes, I mean most of the things are shops, but most of them are now closed up for the night. There's various lanterns hanging out, so it gives you some sort of like light. This is the only door, however, that is open.
Okay, so Gulliver wants to sort of like look around to see whether or not there's a shop that there might still be the shutters open, that we can see what's in the, if they've got a display of goods.
Right, what exactly are you looking for?
Not looking for anything. What he wants to do, he wants to use that sort of like go over and have a look, and then he wants to call the others over as if he's making.
Yeah, I mean it's quite easy to get the party down into this little nook here. That's quite.
Down here.
Yeah,
Okay.
can you see? So you'll be out of sight of what I spoke about beforehand.
Right. Okay. So Gulliver's sort of like going to have a look in the shop window, and then he's going to sort of like motion for everybody else to come across, sort of like saying, "Oh, look what they've got in this window." And then when everybody's sort of like close, he's going to let them know that a bit further back he saw a cloaked figure coming out a doorway on the second floor of one of the buildings, and heading up onto the roof, climbing up onto the roof.
Yeah.
At that point, Hash will go, you saw him too. I thought there's a trick of my eyes.
No, and just do. Did you say cloak?
Cloaked figure.
Yeah. No. It was he was a black clad figure. There was no cloak. It was as if he was dressed in black. To give you a modern day equivalent, if you think, yeah. So it wasn't sort of like a baggy robe or anything like that. It was quite not tight fitting, but really
like what I wear, but black.
Yes.
Was there any similarity to the people that attacked us? The opposite of Odie's.
The people that attacked the Macduffs. You mean?
Well, yes, but the ones that attacked us from the rooftops.
Oh yeah. You all, both you and Hazard, just saw a fleeting glimpse. You don't think they were doing anything, or he was doing, or she was doing anything nice. He definitely looked a bit shifty, and the similarities to what you saw in Lindowe when you were down in the slum areas going to the sanctuary of the Templars would be that they're both clad in black. They both moved extremely cat-like.
How many came out and went up? One?
Just one. That's all you saw.
Gulliver's going to say, Sophie doesn't feel right about it.
No, it could have been somebody like, I don't know if you get these in the city, but maybe a tent thief coming in and just sneaking through the night and try to take things. But if you find them, we chop their hands off.
One of the things that both Hazra and Gulliver you pick up via your insight roll is that, and once you mention it, everybody can see the relevance of it. There's no doors open and a light shining through. It's coming into night here, and the majority all the other doors are actually shut. People will be moving to the back of their accommodation or settling down. This town or village, or probably a town, starts really early in the morning. As soon as dusk comes and nightfall, most of the workers are heading off to bed. But this door is definitely open, and you can definitely see candlelight from within. And as it gets darker and darker, it becomes more and more obvious.
Like a beacon.
Yeah, and just out of interest, it's becoming very obvious in the sense that people who are walking either way past you, there's not loads of people, but the odd person may be going to the centre of the town for a drink, or coming back from their shopping a little bit later, or maybe people who work in a different shop and heading back to their accommodation. You do notice that people are almost like taking an interest in it, because it's so unusual for a door to be open, especially now in the sense that the weather is not boiling hot. It's quite autumnal in its climate. So really and truly, once you get behind your door, the first thing you do is close it, and probably bolt it as well.
I remember it is on the third one.
Yeah, so the actual I'm just zooming right there in. So the set of stairs sort of like goes up there, and the door was at the top there, and it goes into the second floor.
Would you like me to go and maybe have a look and see if anything is amiss? I'm reasonable considering myself. I need to be.
I think maybe it's Finia. Maybe she left the door open for us. She did tell us to meet her here, didn't she?
Wasn't it supposed to be meet at Finiel's house? Or was she going to show us the way?
Other side of town.
Have we looked where... right, so we're around this sort of area now, are we?
Yeah, so
we're in this alcove here.
You're in the alcove,
sorry, yes.
just sort of like
right.
You're sort of like here at the moment.
Okay, well, I think I should go and have a look. It seems very unusual for someone to leave a door open. It's a cold night. I can't understand why. But maybe
you shouldn't go by yourself, though, Hazra. I'm pretty stealthy as well. I'll go with you.
I'll stay here and look after Bartleby and wait for Finiel.
Keep an eye out, friend Hengist, and please just hoot like an owl if you can. If anything strange happens, and we'll come at once.
Will do.
Okay, so Hazra and Gulliver, you're going up to investigate, yeah?
How many people? Is there still a fair few people?
No, it's just like one or two people moving around. So Bartleby and Hengist, if you just take your headphones off, because you won't know this at all. When I put my thumbs up on the screen, then you'll be able to, I will then tell you what happens in your area. Okay, so can you let me know, Hazra and Gully, once their headphones are off, because I can't see the cameras.
Yep, no, they're off. They're good.
Okay, I'm assuming, Hazra, you're going to take the lead up the staircase. And is it a case that you're both going up rolling your stealth?
Yes.
Try to go as quietly as
quiet. Okay then. So roll your stealth skill, both of you. Okay then. So you sort of like head on up the staircase, and it seems as if you're sort of like hitting every damp or slightly creaky board right the way up there, and then you get to the top, and there's a partly open door. It's open enough to get a person through it, and you can see just from where you're standing that it seems to open up into a large room. What would you like to do?
Okay, without touching it, can I just gently poke my face so it's the door's there, and I want to go, well, just have a quick look around either side.
Yeah, so the door opens. If you imagine you're me, the door opens into that way. So you've sort of like looked in that direction to see that it's in a large room. If you want to see any more, you'll have to poke your head round the corner of the door.
Okay, in which case I shall throw back the door and step forward.
Okay, so you whack back the door, and you seem to open up. Both of you can see that it's almost like a room that is set out for a meal. There is meat on the table. There's bread. There's cheese. There's goblets. There's a carafe of, is that right? A carafe of wine.
Carafe, yeah.
Yeah, not being a drink, you see. Carafe of wine out. There seems to be enough chairs for 6 people. That the fire is burning. It hasn't gone out or anything like that. It's almost as if the whole bit is like
staged,
or a bit like the Mary Celeste. However, there is something else. So the table is all set ready for a meal and is totally untouched. However, the rest of the areas, the cabinets on the wall, the drawers, etc., are completely and utterly ransacked.
Are there any of the doors going from the from the place that we can see?
You can't see any doors at the moment, but you figured that if you imagine that you've gone into the room, the long wall here, you probably think there's a door at the end of that might almost like go into, hang on, let me just do something, into that house.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Now I'm just going to get them headphones on because they might have heard you pushing open the door.
Right.
Okay, so don't say anything until they come back, depending what they are. I'm going to ask them to roll a perception roll. If they hear it, we'll see what happens, and then we'll see what happens.
No.
Okay, Hengist and Bartleby, could you roll for me, please, perception rolls?
Perception rolls?
Yeah.
Perception.
I just beefed up my perception too.
I've done it, and it's still not working.
Could I use a point of luck to reverse?
Yes, you can do, by all means, Bartleby. So, so Bartleby, all of a sudden, Hazra and Gulliver head off, and you sort of like sat around, you're quite tense, because Hengist is sort of like being very protective here, and the noise in the area is getting less and less and less. And all of a sudden, Bartleby, you hear the slamming of a door. Whether or not it is, you would actually get it to hard, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Yeah. It sounds as if a door has been slammed open from around the corner. What would you like to do?
Hengist, I heard a door.
Where? What direction?
I want to point with my club my walking club in the general direction.
There on the stairs, right there.
So Hengist will start walking in the direction that Bartleby's pointing in.
Let's make it over there. I hope none of our friends are dead.
Okay, so as you come round the corner, you can see that both Hazra and Gulliver are not on the stairs or the landing, but you do notice that the door that's at the top of the landing is obviously wide open. You can see a lot more of the light. There also seems to be some movement inside. You can see 2 shadows up there. They seem to be quite still, but they seem to be, they don't look to be threatening or anything, but they're behind the light source, so you can definitely see it. What would you like to do?
And then you see a face pop out going, "It's a trap!"
Hengist, wait, Hengist, wait. slow down. I need to make sure you're blessed before we enter a death trap. If Finiel wants to kill us now, at least we'll have a fighting chance. I pray that Amriel will protect your blade.
Okay, so this is not going to be minutes. It'll have to be a normal passing roll. Yeah.
Absolutely. I want to do this quick. This, touching his sword if he lets me.
Okay.
And a roll.
Yeah. So your sword, you sort of like reach round the front of Hengist and touch his sword, and it suddenly becomes very honed, and it's quite
1d10.
it becomes a lot more
It becomes a
piercing.
1d10 instead of 1.8.
It's definitely more edged and piercing now, most
And
definitely.
firm.
Yes. Okay.
Lead the way, Hengist.
That was a step too far, Medivac.
Okay, then. So Hengist and Bartleby, I presume, therefore, you're going
going
up the
yeah.
stairs. Okay, so they're on their way. Hazra and Gulliver, I'm coming back to you now. What do you wish to do?
Just a quick question about the actual room. The chairs, are they all?
Yeah. Sorry. I'm trying not to let too much information be passed on because they've got the headphones. So, is there anything that particularly you would like to do rather than getting more description?
Seeing what we've seen, I want to ready myself anyway.
Okay.
So, but I also want to look at the floor to see if there's anything that I can see that's out of place on the floor, like scuff marks.
Yeah. Okay. Then you can start readying yourself and exploring that. What does Gulliver wish to do?
Gulliver wants to go into the room and look for other doors.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. 1 second. Okay, yeah, so Hengist and Bartleby, you come up to the doorway of the room, and basically what you see is there's a central table that has a meal set out for 6 people. There's food there, there's wine there, there's bread there, there's cheese there, there's meat, there's cutlery, everything like that. There's a carafe of wine, etc., etc. There's obviously 6 chairs there, and that is all sort of like perfectly set up for dinner. However, round about the edge of the room, there's cabinets and drawers and cupboards and things like that, and they've been completely turned out. The drawers have been pulled out and almost like smashed on the floor. Gulliver's at the far end of the room, so if you're looking at the map, Gulliver, there is a door where you first where it said you think there might be one here at the end. I'll just put a little mark on for you so you can see it. It's just here. The door is shut, but it doesn't look like it's locked. Hazra,
Hazra's not here.
All right. Okay.
I think he's had to run off somewhere very quickly.
Okay, so you can know this information because it's quite obvious. Hazra readied himself, but he was looking at the floor. There seems to be one big rug that the tables and chairs are sat on. It doesn't look to be disturbed. There's no sort of like sign of a scuffle or anything like that. But round the edges where the rug could have been moved for purposes like
checking underneath it.
Well, I was thinking more, if you were pulling things out from the side, you probably ruffled it up a bit at the edges. It doesn't look like the whole rug has been lifted up because it literally has the table and chairs on it.
Yeah, I got all that. That's fine.
Cool. Yeah.
Lovely, thank you.
Okay, and are the chairs?
The chairs are pushed underneath the table, and there is literally 6 of them. So there's 2 down either side, one at the head and one at the...
Okay, so none of them look like somebody might have stood up abruptly, pushing it back as as if they were surprised. Or
not at all. And that is... The whole room is of 2... It's as if they shouldn't be together. as if the table should belong in one place and the rest of the room should be at another place. Gulliver, you're at this door. Could you just roll me a perception roll, please? Yeah, just while you're stood outside, you sort of like have a listen and see whether or not you can hear anything beyond it. You can't hear anything at all. There's no sounds emanating from that room at all. And I mean, obviously with the roll, you don't think the door is too thick to stop it or anything like that. It's definitely, you definitely heard nothing.
What was below where we are now? Was it a shop? And if
yeah, so the one here, I'll just show you. The one here seemed to be some kind of a lace shop, like gloves and things like that, mainly female. The one next to it here seemed to be some kind of tobacco and herbal shop. And the final one here was Hengist's tea shop. So it's where it served a whole lot of different teas.
Yes, Hengist owns a tea shop.
Gulliver wants to push open this door in front of him.
The green one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Seeing Gulliver doing this, I will move to his back if possible.
Yeah, so you Gulliver sort of like just sort of like opens the door, and how so you sort of like see that and sort of like move up to protect him. And but when you actually get there, you see that room this seems to be some kind of sleeping room. There is another door that is there. You judge by the size of the bed and the general nature of the room is that you don't think it would have belonged to Finiel.
Yeah.
There's no sort of like, there's a woman's touch. There's not a woman's touch there at all.
Is it very Spartan?
Yes, very much so.
It's more like a barbarian sort of bed.
Yeah, you can draw the conclusion that you think if this was where Loran and Finiel lived, just so you know, Gulliver, you think underneath these is the accommodation of the shops below.
Right.
Yeah, does that make sense?
It sounds very Westernish in a sense, where it's all two-tier.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, very much so.
Okay, so Gulliver wants to head across and to the door that's that opposite, and he wants to listen at that one.
Yes, roll your perception.
He hasn't found anybody.
Yeah, you can't hear anything next behind that door at all.
Right,
you do hear the odd sound of clattering of cutlery or pewter mugs and things, but it's not coming from there. It's definitely coming from down below.
Okay, he wants to open that door.
Yeah, and this you think is a lot more refined than the previous room, and you come to the conclusion quite quickly that this is probably Finiel's room. The other thing that you do notice, perhaps more importantly, is that neither of these two rooms look disturbed at all.
I also bet there's no door out of this room either.
The second one.
Yes.
Yeah, no, there is a window. There's a window in both of them.
Because you always have a bodyguard in the room before your room. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, I've gone over time by 15 minutes there, but it's time to have the first break. So,
sorry, that's where I ran off.
Yeah, if you're watching the stream, thank you very much for coming along. We're going to have a quick 10-minute break. So please spend the time going off and getting yourself a beverage, some snacks and whatever, and we will be back in 10 minutes. So please don't go away, or if you're going away, come back. I will change my screen.
Oh my Lord.
actually a shop down in Brighton called the Vegetarian Shoe Shop.
Shut your
So
mouth.
you can actually
That's a long way for you to trek to get your shoes.
well,
fitted.
it's mail order, but I actually went down because I presented a paper down at the BERA conference there in Brighton, which is
Daily Mail.
the British Educational Research Association.
No, I know what it means.
So yeah, but I don't think the other people would.
No,
I'm not just talking to you, Longshank. So, you know.
It's not always
all about you.
Yeah, it is.
You know, so yeah, but because it was quite interesting going to Brighton, because York to London was like 1 hour 58 minutes.
It's amazing how fast that is now,
Yeah,
isn't it?
London to Brighton was about 8 hours.
8 hours.
It's just
And
like,
4 trains. Yeah.
I just thought, good
That
grief.
virtue
Well, I don't go to Brighton.
York to London is amazing. It's like I think we did it in how fast was it with Game of Thrones? York to London, at least.
Yeah, 2 hours
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
And the only time it gets quick, if you get a non-stop, they can actually do it 1 minute 56.
Yeah,
That's a
that's what we had coming back.
The train from where I am to London is 6 hours if you don't get washed off the tracks
Yeah.
by the sea.
Wow.
When Dawlish is underwater.
Okay, so we'll go back to the adventure. So just a quick recap. Bartleby and Hengist, you are just stood in the doorway. You're actually in the room. Just sort of like ping roughly where you are. So you're roughly there. Yeah?
Are we live now?
Yes, you are.
Thank you.
So watch your P's and Q's. And then Gulliver and Hazra, you are just by the second door. I've described the first room, I described the second, and I think I've described all the rooms, yeah. Mm-hmm. So, so it's down to you guys to start to tell me what you would like to do.
Gulliver's going to turn to Hazra, who's stood behind him, I believe.
Yep, on your shoulder. Yes.
Yeah. And he's going to say, Hazra, something doesn't seem right here. It was almost like Finial was expecting us, or the food was laid out. But they're not here.
I agree, and there's no sign of them either. There's no maybe no bodies, no nothing on the floor, but the food is there. It's like we are early for the meeting, but somebody else came in here first. Do you know what I mean? It's like when you go to a yurt and the food's laid out just like this. And
Will you go into a what?
a yurt, it's like a tent. It's where we live sometimes.
Why not say tent then?
Because tent's a little bit too generic.
Hengist and Bartleby, is there anything that you guys would like to be doing in the other room while Gulliver and Hazra are having a chat?
So Hengist would have got up to the top of the stairs, seen the door open, and he would just sort of like barge straight in.
Yeah, you're both inside that room now. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm assuming from gathering it, because obviously we missed that we didn't have our headphones on for the original description. Is it sort of like there's obviously the middle table?
Yeah, did I not?
Yes, you did. Yeah.
I described it again. So.
Oh, okay. I missed that. So seeing no one's in there, he's going to move. He's going to say, he's going to turn to Bartleby and go, perhaps they're in the other room. I'm going to head that way. And he's going to march into the second room.
Fine, Hengist, fine. I guess I'll do what the obvious thing that needs to be done here. Bartleby grumbles to himself as he's going to start picking up and trying to put the room back in order to an extent, putting little cups back to where I think they should probably be.
It looks like all the cabinets and everything that have really been there. It's as if they've pulled out a drawer and tipped the drawer out. It's not and then just dropped the drawer. And it's if there was a cupboard or a shelf, it looks like they opened the cupboard door, put the hand inside, the arm inside, and just scooped everything out. You know, and that's literally it. So it's going to take probably, but The central table is untouched at all. Hazra, you see Hengist coming into the room that you and Gulliver are in.
Does
Hengist-
Gulliver hear him as well, or
Well, you can see him. I mean,
yeah? Gulliver's going to say, "This doesn't look good for us. It's almost like we're being set up by Finiel." And he's going to turn to Hengist, and he's going to say, "Hengist, keep an eye on the stairs going into the street. Let us know if you see any guards approaching."
And Hengist,
okay.
do not touch the food or the drink
No, well,
Or the cheese.
or anything.
no, I'll save that for you, Gulliver. It's fine. And Hengist will turn around and walk back to Bartleby.
yeah.
I was just thinking back to the poisoning of Tobias's other companion.
Oh yes, yeah.
Gulliver wants to go back into the main room.
What's he called? Karan.
He was
Zoran.
Yes.
Zoran. That's
Zoran,
it. Yeah.
well, nicely caught.
Yeah. Yes, Gulliver, as you turn round to go out of the room and to go to another room, something sort of like catches your eye, and it catches your eye because everything in Finiel's room is very much set out, very organised, very linear, very, as if she's very much almost like OCD. But there's something that you notice as you go out, is that there seems to be some kind of trunk or some kind of chest, and the reason it catches your eye is because it's very slightly sticking out from underneath the bed. It's only because everything else is so perfect that it sort of like immediately sort of like sticks out, and you sort of like head to go round out the door.
Sort of like does a double take.
Yeah, then you sort of think, hang a minute. And then you look back and you can see it's only about this much stuck out from the bed. But the other important thing is it's slightly at an angle.
So it looks like it's maybe been pulled out and then pushed back, maybe hastily, but not pushed back underneath completely.
Yeah.
As soon as you see that, as soon as he sort of like does a double take, he's immediately going to walk over to it. Size-wise, is it bigger than the one? It's bigger than the one that has.
It fits underneath the bed, so it's not huge. But it's probably about this in length and about this in depth.
Are there sort of like metal handles on?
Well, it seems to be made out of wood, then sort of like embossed or sort of like kept together with brass. It looks sturdy. Roll your commerce skill.
Don't take your trousers.
What was that? Don't take your trousers off.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gully.
I'm not using fast enough.
I know. Yeah, you figure it looks well made rather than expensive.
Okay, he's going to go over to the bed and he's going to kneel down and he's going to grab hold of the chest and he's going to pull it out.
Gulliver, don't leave it. If it's not been touched, leave it where it is. It's not ours.
Yeah, so you sort of like pull it out. You pull it out. There doesn't seem to be. It's almost like if you imagine a padlock. You get the little circular bit and then a latch that comes down.
Mm-hmm.
That's there in place, but there's no padlock on the actual loop.
Right.
You figure that there should normally be one there, but it's not there.
He's going to, once he's pulled out, he's going to stop and he's going to sort of like go down onto his hand and put his face sort of like close to on the floorboards, and he wants to see whether or not he can see anything underneath the bed.
No, the underneath the bed is completely empty apart from this casket.
Right. Okay. he's going to open the metal.
Hengist, are you by the door?
Yeah, so he would have gone to stand by, not quite in the doorway, but sort of like leaning. So if the door, he's leaning against if there's a wall. So like the door I can't speak. So the doorway, he's got sort of like he's leaning against it, so the doorway's just to his left, so he's immediately next to the door.
Right. So you won't be able to see out onto the street.
No, he's
okay then.
He's keeping an eye out, but he's not.
So the first time you will actually see
Standing in the doorway.
somebody is when they actually appear at the top of the landing.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, cool. Yes, Gulliver.
Gulliver's going to he's going to take out his knife from his sheath that's on his side, and he's going to see whether or not he can prise up the latch of this.
You sort of like it seems to come up quite easily. It seems to be well oiled and everything, and it quite easily flicks up. So you can just sort of like lift the lid of the casket.
Yeah, he'll do that.
And yeah, you sort of like lift it up, and it's very strange inside. It seems to be padded out with a lot of down at the bottom. It's more like wadding. Or sort of like almost like a cotton material that's been stuffed with old clothes and stuff like that to make almost like a cushion. But then on top of that, there seems to be a number of, or a certain amount of silk cloth and scarves, and you sort of like look in it, and it looks like it was molded around something. And once you look at it, it sort of like triggers that memory off in the back of your head, and you suddenly realise that the shape of it probably matches the whatchamacallit, the chalice. Sorry, somebody just said that my mic's muted.
I can hear you. What, on the stream?
Yeah. Well, no, I'm getting. Hang on.
No, you're fine.
What, on the stream?
Yeah. Well, no, it's all working. So you can see it, and you can see everything, and then so that's what you can see.
We need to leave here now.
The chalice that was in the that we got from the Hazret.
There was like those three things on the.
Yeah, there was sort of
we
like
got the burst. They got
the candle, the burner.
It looks like it's the same size and shape of that.
Do we have rooms in the Wyvern?
Yes, you do. I think it's a 2 and a 2, isn't it? Don't think you had separate rooms. I think you were bunking together.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Gulliver's going to close it, and he's going to push the chest back under.
Okay. Hengist, can you
go in?
Hang on, just 1 second. Hengist, can you roll me a perception roll for me, please? Yeah, quite unbelievably, you hear you hear the sounds of running up the outside staircase.
So Hengist is going to attract Bartleby's attention. So he'll go, Bartleby, someone's coming up the stairs, and he's going to.
Yeah, hang on. So, but when you sort of like you turn around and say, Bartleby, there's somebody coming up the stairs, and when you look back, somebody has come up the stairs and they're stood in the doorway. So as you sort of like look back, you can see it, and it seems to be a sort of like an urchin, quite sort of like 16-year-old lad. And he sort of like looks at you, and he looks at Bartleby and says, "Is the sorcerer here?"
Bartleby will panic and make at least 3 loud owl noises
Go on then.
while staring at Hengist.
Go on.
If you leave a message,
If you leave a message at the tone, he'll get back to
I
you.
stopped saying it. That just popped in my head, and I could not trust myself not to say it. So Hengist will turn around and say, "What do you need to tell the sorcerer?"
I have a message.
I want to hear the owl noises.
Oh, does that mean everybody's being quiet? So I need to make that noise?
No,
Just-
I mean, more interesting what.
Do it.
So what? Yes, Hengist.
So Hengist has said to the urchins, like, "Tell me the message, and I'll pass it on to the sorcerer. He's busy at the moment."
He says, "I'm not getting silver to talk to you. I have a message for the sorcerer."
Follow me then, and he's going to walk to. He's going to lead the sorcerer, sort of like lead the chapter to Gully, but stop in the room in between, and then call out, "Gulliver, there's an urchin here who wants to talk to you." And then he's going to place himself so that the urchin can't make an attack towards Gully, if that's what he's going to do.
Good.
So are you standing in front of the urchin then?
And to the front, but slightly to the side, so that he can see Gulliver coming out of the other room. So I've only taken him to the same room that
Yeah.
Thingy's in.
After pushing the chest back under and getting up, and Gulliver's just said to Hazra, "This doesn't look good for us, Hazra." And then he hears Hengist saying something about urchins and message, and he's going to come to the doorway.
Yeah, and you see there's a 15-16-year-old urchin there, and sort of like looking and waiting, and just off to one side is Hengist waiting, and he sort of like sees you, and he sort of like goes, "Yeah, there's somebody at the Wyvern for you. He says he's of your order, and you have to come quickly."
Oh, really?
And he brings out another piece of bread that he picked up from the table as he walked through, following Hengist in, and takes another bite of it.
No!
And it's just sort of like,
Have you seen Finiel at all?
"Not since yesterday. Why?"
I just wondered what. Tell me, what does this person look like from my order?
He's
Help yourself to some more food.
yeah. "Oh, cheers," he said,
no.
and he goes back,
stop.
and he sort of like picks up what appears to be some like a chicken drumstick, and sort of like slurps into it, and you notice that the grease and everything sort of like falls down his face. He says,
He's going to sort of like talk to him as he's doing this, but whilst he's also doing that, he's going to move the platter of cheese away from the person.
yeah, and he sort of like says, basically he's dressed in a blue robe, and he's just arrived, and he asked where you were, and so Mr. Piggins sent me to come and find you.
Good was going to say, "Oh, thank you very much. We shall go and see him straight away."
He says, "Sure," and he sort of like picks up a couple of two things off the table, and he just sort of like goes straight out again, and almost like his job's done. He's delivered the message, and he's got some free food. So yeah, that's absolutely fine.
Gulliver's going to say to the rest. Apparently, there's somebody from the Order here to see me. I can only assume that they've come from Lindowe and they've used the portal.
Well, that can only be a good thing, because that now opens up that avenue of travel again.
Indeed. Good news overall then.
It sounds a little bit convenient.
Amriel provides for those who are in need. Ezra.
That is true. I'm starting to learn the ways of the world and how mysterious things will happen at times when you need them. Yes.
Hengist will clap Hazra on the back and say, and if not, both of us can handle most problems.
Yes, we will make a way.
Yeah, this doesn't seem right, though. It's almost as if Finiel is setting us up for the fall. She knows that we have the other valuable item, and I wouldn't be surprised if that there was a chest underneath the bed that had something that looked like maybe the chalice was in it. I wouldn't be surprised if that's not found in our quarters.
Which is why we should leave here. We should leave here immediately.
And
Wait,
not finish cleaning?
No, do not clean anymore, Mr. Bartleby. You are doing a very good job, but you shouldn't touch anything in here. We need to leave and go to the place where she asked us to meet, and hopefully, well, how did the urchin know to find us here?
I don't know, but I can't leave somebody from the Order waiting.
No, it's
Gulliver's going to start heading out.
Well,
Angus will probably follow as well.
Gulliver, or Mr. Bartleby, sorry, wait. Could you perhaps leave a note explaining what has happened here, or say we came investigating the light, and sorry, I don't know.
Gulliver and Hengist have left the room. There's only Mr. Bartleby left.
How do you feel, Mr. Bartleby? Because we need to go back to the inn, but the urchin knows we were here, so she would leave a note saying that, this place was like this when we found it. Otherwise, we might get blamed for it.
I think Amriel will clear our name. Let's keep up with the rest of them before they get lost into the night.
I will just your judgment on this, and I will follow your lead, and then I'll follow it after the other two.
Okay, so you head back roughly on the same route or a different route, back to the Wild Wyvern.
Gulliver's going to hurry.
Yeah, and when you get there, the actual room, the actual tap room, where you sort of like eat and drink, is actually virtually empty. Mr. Piggins is behind the counter, and it's quite normally quite empty now, because if you remember last time you were here, it was the Great Market Day, if you remember. So Advent is really getting back down to its normal slow pace of life, and as you walk in, Mr. Piggins sort of like sees you, Gulliver, and says, "Oh, you're here. Yes. Your colleague has just hired a room and said he would be down. Yes, I'll go and tell him you're here."
Thank you, Mr. Piggins.
Yeah, and he sort of like heads off upstairs, and he comes down sort of like quite briskly.
Gulliver's going to make sure that his emblem for the Kraken is displayed how it should be, how the Order dictates that.
Yeah. Do you have a passion for your Order?
I do. Yes.
Yeah. Roll that then, and we'll see how good you do it.
He is only an apprentice.
Do you wish to use a point of luck?
No, he probably doesn't. He's probably
Okay.
because of the the situation. He probably has the emblem upside down or something.
Yeah, that's what I was
Very
thinking. Yeah.
difficult to judge it with
Or
all-
on the wrong
all the
show,
legs.
yeah. And Mr. Piggins brings you over your normal wine and, bread and cheese for Gulliver, because he's very much aware that that's what you have, and brings over various things and sort of like puts them down the table and sort of like says that your colleague Gulliver had ordered food as well, and just as he says that, somebody dressed. It's not a dark blue robe. It tends to be almost like a off blue robe, if that makes sense to you. He looks like he's not in the peak of conditions. He looks like he's either been riding or journeying for some time, and he sort of like comes up to the table, and he sort of like notices the lack of chairs there, and Mr. Piggins gets him. I'm just going to use the Owen character for this. Mr. Piggins sort of like brings a chair over, and he sort of like the guy takes a huge a swig of the ale that's there, and sort of like starts tucking in, and he sort of like he gets that ale down for him first, and he says, he turns to you and he says, "Are you Gulliver?"
Yes, sir. I'm.
Sorry, he was looking at Bartleby. "Are you Gulliver?"
No, sir.
I'm Gulliver.
He sort of like turns around and he sort of like sees you there, and you hear him say, "Good God, good God."
What's wrong?
All this problem, all this aggro, all this near death, and they sent me to say that the fate of the order lies in the hands of a boy?
Who, me?
Yes.
What's wrong with the order?
Have you not heard?
We travelled here, and then we had to travel some more, and well, we haven't really seen anybody for weeks and weeks, and we were just trying to discuss how to get back to Lindowe to visit the order, and we were going to head over to Sindow and see whether or not there was anything there that we could go, but we were going to have to take a caravan, and that was going to take.
He sort of like lets out a huge sort of like tut as he does rabbit on for about 5 or 10 minutes, and everybody else used to sort of like start eating and sort of like swilling it down with ale as Gulliver just goes on and on and on and on, and the additional member of the party just sort of like turns to you all and says, "We have no hope. We have no hope at all."
Angus will say, "I don't know. Gulliver's pretty good with spells. He's saved our lives more than once."
What is happening? He turns to you and almost like sees you that you're some kind of knight or fighter, and he almost like looks down at you as if to say you can't be as good as a sorcerer, and he just sort of says, "What lies ahead requires much more than spells." And he sort of like puts down his bread that he had stuffed a bit of. It was nice soft bread, and he managed to take some meat and stuff it into the soft part and taking a bite, almost like making a sandwich but without cutting it in half. And he also he looks at Gulliver, but he's almost like addressing the table, and he says to you, Gulliver, he says, "There's been an attempt on Gwyneth the Wise's life."
Who by?
Well, that's the interesting thing. We think it's some kind of assassin.
And but is she all right?
We don't
what
know.
will happen if?
We don't know. The council has been disbanded. Accusations are flying about, and the orders have dissolved into disarray. People are shouting at others, making accusations, saying that this person is this order, they had hired the assassin. Other orders are saying, principals of the orders are saying this, and principals of orders are saying that.
Well, we need to get back to Lindowe.
Exactly.
Why were you sent for me?
Well, you are the only person, Gulliver, who is beyond suspicion, since technically you are on the other side of the continent. But Gulliver, I hate to use language like this with you, but I'm afraid it's a bit of a time to grow up. There is a lot resting on you. The council has been disbanded. There is no central council anymore. It's gone. Soon orders will be going against orders, and you know what that means.
It's not going to be good.
No. But
there's probably be a war,
well,
a magic war.
More that there's going to be backstabbing and assassination attempts and intrigue, and orders are going to be wiping out other orders, trying to get supremacy before they call the council back together. We don't even know whether or not Gwyneth the Wise is actually alive or not.
Well, we need to find out who made the attempt on her life and bring her to justice.
For once, you seem to be rising to the challenge, Gulliver. That's exactly what you need to do. You need to find out who actually is responsible for this. It's imperative that you find out. It's imperative that you find out what happened and then report back to the leader of our order in Lindowe, Madius. Remember?
Yes, but how are we going to get back to Lindowe?
Oh, we have opened the portal at Matilda's tower. It's open and awaiting your return and mine.
What do we know about the attempt on Gwyneth's life?
We only know that it was some kind of dart that was blown or floated in that had some kind of poison maybe on it. She collapsed to the ground very quickly. The Order of the Lich have immediately said that they are responsible for taking over the council. And would you believe the Order of Fire, the Red Order, are backing them rather than the normal system that we have.
And where does Kraken stand in it? Or
we want things to be sorted, but I do have a piece of information for you. And he sort of like leans in closer.
I was reading that. I thought that was it.
No, I've just popped that up
Yeah.
because just in case other people, I'm not too sure what the council is, because people would know. He says, we're very suspicious of a number of people. However, our own investigation has narrowed it down to one person in one order. It's especially important, Gulliver, that you are wary of. And he suddenly starts to choke on his in his throat, and he's trying desperately to talk, and you can see that his face is just going red and red as he doesn't seem to be able to take in any air at all. And
who sat next to him on the other side?
Well,
It's Bartleby.
Oh, Bartleby. Yeah. So Gulliver's going to say, Bartleby's choking.
Angus has stood up, thrown his chair behind him.
Who is
He's,
it?
running around to smack.
Okay,
the chap on the back.
Hengist, make an endurance roll, please. You get up from your chair, and as soon as you get up from your chair, you're almost like hit by this dose of dizziness and nauseous, and you suddenly go backs and forwards, and you reach out and put your hands on the table to almost like steady yourself. Bartleby, yeah, what are you doing?
I'm going to. Well, I'd like to ask a question first. We've talked about the first aid skill. Would the healing skill be one that would be appropriate to apply here, or would it have no effect?
It's completely up to you.
Well, Amriel says I should try curing malady, so I'm going to try and invoke a miracle.
Yeah.
That I think my goddess would like.
Okay, so you sort of like get up and adopt your praying position or start waving your hands around. Could you make an endurance roll for me, please?
I would love to. If it would let me. There we go. Pow.
Yeah, and you suddenly feel, as you sort of like start to utter the prayer, you suddenly feel this immense pain in your chest. It's as if somebody, you even look down to check that you haven't been stabbed by something, because it just feels like somebody has almost like stuck a blade into your through your rib cage into your body, and you see Hengist sort of like is bent over double, supporting himself on the table. Hazra and Gulliver, could you make endurance checks, please?
I was going to say I'm going to jump up as well, so let's do my endurance now.
So that's Gulliver's, yeah. Gulliver, you suddenly get this immense pain in your stomach, and you sort of like
sorry, in my where? So
in your stomach.
Oh, right.
And you sort of like, there's a huge contraction as if all your gut is a squeezing tight, forming immense pain, and you just sort of like double over on the floor. Hazra, you sort of like get up, and you're slightly dizzy. You feel it going backwards and forwards, as if you had, or had some kind of hallucinogenic drug or something like that. Hazra, just roll a perception roll for me, please.
Certainly.
Yeah, and as you stand up, you notice the rest of your party. The blue sorcerer is now on the floor, grabbing his throat and sort of like writhing about, trying to gain breath. And Hengist is slumped over, and Gulliver is slumped over, and Bartleby tried to get up, but has come down. But you've actually managed to get up, and you notice something extremely strange. I'm going to type it to you,
Okay.
because nobody else will see it.
Is that person doing anything in particular other than just stood there?
He's just leaning on the bar place.
Right.
Are we able to do any actions at all?
You are now doubled over, all three of you. The only person who is actually able to do anything at the present moment in time is Hazra.
Well, I will firstly run around to this chopper here, and I will give him a hard slap in the back and try to open his mouth, if possible, move his tongue out the way so he can breathe.
Yeah, okay then. So roll your medicine roll.
I have first aid and that's it, sorry.
Oh, right. Okay, then. So this as you
Bandage around his mouth.
as you sort of like run round, you sort of like kneel down at him, and you notice that he doesn't seem to be he seems to be breathing. He does seems to
But
be
it's like he's forced not to.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's as if he's trying very hard to breathe but can't. There's something else coming to you in Discord.
Yep.
So I can't spell.
You're not the only one, it's fine.
In which case, I will dive or run to him and try to grapple him, and then shout, "What have you done?"
Are you going over the bar? Or are you going around the outside?
I'm going to go over if that's okay. And
Yeah.
use my athletics to go over.
Go for it. Roll your athletics. Yeah, you run, and you notice that the pain in your body is getting more, and you sort of like vault over the counter and land on the other side, sort of like knocking off pewter mugs left, right, and centre. And as you sort of like vault over, Mr. Piggins sort of like takes a couple of steps back, and he sort of like smiles at you and goes, like that.
What have you done to them? Who are you? And what have you done? Where's Mr. Piggins?
He just sort of like almost like laughs at you, and you feel a sharp pain in your neck, and you sort of like reach up, and you can feel sort of like a slither of metal has actually embedded itself into your neck, and you sort of like swoon for a bit, and then just as you collapse unconscious, you see 3 or 4 men or women, you're not too sure, they are clad in black, the same as you saw
Through the door. Yep.
and and you're not completely sure, but you almost like thought you saw a walking pig, and that's the last thing that you see as you collapse to the floor, and everybody lapses into unconsciousness, and time seems to go blank, and only one thing happens between this and the next scene, is that Balterby, you have a dream, and it's quite an unusual dream, because it is happening as if it's on loop, as if it's looping over and over and over again. And what you see is quite simple, quite almost like barren compared to the other visions that you've had. And all you see is a night sky with Amriel's moon shining very brightly. And then what happens is as if somebody is pouring black ink over the top, and it just slowly runs down, blotting out Amriel's light until it's completely covering the moon, and there's no light at all. It's just completely opaque black. There's no stars in that hole at all. And against the night sky, it just looks like a black hole. And then it resets itself. And it goes exactly the same, over and over and over. And it's almost like Groundhog Day. You just feel that you're getting it over and over and over again. And you're literally, all of you are literally out cold. And so much so that in a second when you wake up, you have no idea. It's as if you were choking or in pain, and then it was blackness. Bartleby, you've had this reoccurring loop during this blackness, and then at the other side of it, in a second, you wake up. But through that gap is complete darkness. There's nothing. There's no voices, there's no sounds, there's no anything at all. And you actually wake up roughly at the same time, although you're not aware of this. And Bartleby and Gulliver, I say what is happening to Hengist and Hazra first, then I'll come to you, Bartleby and Gulliver. Yeah.
Just on note, sorry, Hazra just remember what happened beforehand, doesn't he?
Yes, yeah, you remember what's happened. It's just this gap. It's completely black. So what I'm saying is that you don't hear what's happened or anything. It's just blackness. Hengist and Hazra, you wake up in an almost like, the best way I can describe it to you is that, have you seen the kiddie catcher in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wake up with a huge nose.
Yeah. So you both of you are inside like a barred wagon.
No.
Yeah, and it's almost like in a lion cage. You have none of your items. You have none of your weapons. The only thing that you have on
You paid for a spear.
is your undergarments, and that's it. You also wake up and you're outside, and you sort of like have a look round. Hazra, could you just make me a locale roll?
Certainly.
Yeah, you seem to be in on a plane, not as in an aeroplane, on a plane. You can't see any mountains or any towns or anything like that. It just seems to be flat plains. There's no trees or anything like that. And both of you, your hands are not tied and your feet are not tied. But you're sort of like slumped in here. Your mouth feels as if all they've been doing over a period of time is almost like putting wet rags in it.
Yeah.
And that's it. You're extremely hungry. You are not too sure how many days you have gone without food, but you do feel that your fatigue level is actually at exhausted.
Right. I'll change it now.
So just so you know, at exhausted, that means that any skills that you try to do will be a Herculean an attempt. Your movement is halved. Your initiative's at -4, and you have -1 action points. So it should counter in for that. So just so you know. And what you can see at the moment is that there seems to be a series of caravans and wagons. There's yours that is barred, and there's another one that's barred, and then there seems to be 2 more wagons that are not barred at all. They seem to be normal wagons. Sort of like go 1, 2, and at the head here there's a fire burning. It's not a huge fire, but it's definitely a burning fire that is almost like at the gate, at the entranceway, and it's just sort of like there. You can see that there's people milling about the place, and you can see there's some people that are clad out in this black cloth that you've now, Hazra, you've seen twice.
Twice, yeah.
And you notice that they're walking around. They seem to be carrying knives or spears. They look well protected. The only thing that you can actually see of them is like a true ninja. You can just see their eye slit, and that's it. They are talking to each other, but they're almost like mumbled voices coming across. And they seem to be, some of them are sat down eating, some of them you notice are patrolling around the outside of the caravan, and they're sort of like walking around. You can see that they got spears, and the first thing you both notice is that you definitely think they're some kind of professionals. They don't look like common and garden, rogues. Even as they move past your wagon, they hardly make a sound, and as they see you have woken up, they look at you, and you almost like hear sounds, And the other people that you can see, I'm going to drag on a picture, a token onto the map so you can see it. Okay, so they look like that.
Oh, are they in cages too, or
No?
guarding?
They are sat around in partners. Everybody never seems to be alone. Everybody seems to be with somebody else. They seem to be going around in pairs. Just roll for me an insight.
Oh gosh.
And
Is that
do you wish to look it?
I will look mine. Yes, please. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Hengist, you can roll if you've got anything about warfare or army life or anything like that.
So I've got, what have I got? I've got law, military history, and then I've got law, strategy, and tactics.
Roll that one. Roll the second one.
The second one.
Do you wish to edge it?
I'll luck that. Yeah.
Sorry, look it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So both of you come to the same conclusion that there's definitely not a rank system here. These boar-like creatures are not lesser than the humans. There's definitely on equal terms. They don't seem to interact with each other a lot. But Hengist, you definitely get the feeling that this is a well organized thing. I'm just going to nip over to
Can I just say to Hengist, have we been conscripted?
I think we've been more taken prisoner.
and as you look over at the other wagon, you can see what I'm describing to Bartleby and Gulliver. Bartleby and Gulliver, you are slightly different. You only have your undergarments on, and that's it. But you have fared slightly worse. You are also at exhausted level of fatigue. However, your feet are not tied together, okay, around the ankles. You feel that they probably have been tied together once because they're sore, and there's still almost like a burning sensation around your ankles, and you know your legs are quite stiff and keep going into cramp, but currently they're not bound. Your hands are bound behind your backs, okay? You're sort of like lying on your side. You've also got a piece of cloth round your eyes, and it's tied very tightly at the back, so much so that even if you open your eyes underneath the blindfold, you can't see anything. It's not just resting over, it's literally tight. You can't even see underneath it. And the thing that makes it even worse is that you are both gagged. you have another piece of cloth that is through your mouth and tied tightly at the back. So much so that you think it's been here a long time, but your mouth has stopped salivating anymore. You know, because you're so thirsty and hungry that your mouths are literally dry. And both of you recognize instantly that this is to stop you spell casting. It's as if they know how to treat you completely. They know that you might have to make gestures, you might have to see something, you might have to speak some words, and it's absolutely completely been cut off. You do, as you roll around and make noises, you and Hazra and Hengist, you can see this. In the second carriage, there is the guy, the blue wizard, the blue sorcerer from the Wild Wyvern in there.
Michael Fassbender.
Yeah, and as you sort of like sit there, Hazra and Hengist, or is there anything that anybody would like to do?
Hazra, so my feet's tied, my hands tied, but I've been watered, so I will shout out, "What are you doing? Why are we here? We have done no wrongs. We're innocent people. Why are we here? Please tell me why."
Yeah, and people can obviously hear you, but it's as if they are not engaging with you at all. Hengist, you know that this is avoiding prisoners is the best way to keep them, because what prisoners are trained to do is try to befriend or interact with their captors. But this group of people are just, or creatures, are completely and utterly, they're ignoring you. They're not even, when Hazra is talking, they're not even turning and looking at you both. They just seem to be ignoring you altogether.
When Gulliver sort of like comes round, I mean, he's immediately sort of like going to try to move, but find his hands are bound. So he's, not being able to see. He's going to sort of like start crying out, almost as if, in pain and fear. But then he's going to do that for, a few minutes, but then almost like not getting any, when not hearing any response for it. He's then going to, he's almost like going to remember when he was first learning magic and his sorcery spells, and when Master Healy was going through the about keeping his mind clear and focusing on the task at hand, etc. So he's almost like going to try to get himself together, pull himself round, and the first thing he's going to do is to he's going to try to recall as much as he can about how he ended up here, and whether or not there's anything that might have, he might have overlooked. Did he see somebody in the background? Did he hear something? Was somebody acting strange? But he also wants to see whether or not he has the power to cast magic if he could.
Yeah, and this is suitable for you, Bartleby, as well. You haven't lost any of your magic points or your devotional pool. It hasn't been drained from you in any way. You do have the power inside you to cast spells. The issue is you don't have the physical means to cast the spells. You can't see anything, you can't move, and you can't say anything. And is a lot of your spells require touch or line of sight, Bartleby, you wave your arms around when you're casting spells. None of that is possible. But you do, each one of you do recognize that there's 3 people in this wagon with you. Bartleby, is there anything you would like to do?
Yes. Having realized all this information and what you've just said about magic, I'm keeping that in mind. And if Bartleby can, he wants to try and comfort Gulliver by humming the lines to his calm spell. I know that won't really cast or anything, but he's going to try and hum it. And if he can, he'll try and pat him with his foot to try and comfort him in some degree. Bartleby has accepted his fate, dead or a slave.
Yeah, and this is really reassuring for you, Gulliver, and you suddenly realise that you're probably not alone in this wagon. You're actually with Bartleby, and Bartleby is somewhere close by, and by rolling a bit, you can almost touch or feel each other's bodies, and that you're very close together. While all this is happening, there's 2 of these boar-like people walking across to your wagon, Hazra and Hengist.
Yep.
They walk up, and they seem to be grunting to each other, and you figure it's some kind of language, but you can't understand it at all. It just seems to be a whole lot of grunts and snorts and clicks in the back of the throat. And then one of them says, and when he talks, you're almost like thinking that it's going to be very disjointed English or disjointed Common, but it's not. It's quite fluent, as if they're quite versed in using it. And he sort of looks at you both and says, "We've decided to have some entertainment tonight. Who's up for entertainment?"
Are our hands tied in front or behind us?
Behind you.
Okay.
How close are they to the bars? Of the
Yeah, they are well versed in this. You cannot. They are far enough from the way of the bars that even if you gobbed at them,
I think it's my plan. I wasn't going to gob at them. If they were close to the bars, Hengist was going to try and headbutt one of them.
No, they're not getting that at all.
I will be free for entertainment tonight. It seems I did nothing. If I'm a little bit peaky, maybe you could bring me some water or some food.
And you suddenly realise that although he was looking at you both, he wasn't actually talking to you and asking you the question.
And he's just going to look at him and just the a smile appears on his face.
The other one says, shall we toss a coin for it? One looks quite meaty. The other one looks a bit skinny, but it might do a good job. And they say, okay then, let's toss a coin for it. And
Cannibals.
They grab this coin and they flick it quite deftly, despite having claw-like hands up in the air. Grabs it and turns it upside down. Who would like to be heads and who would like to be tails?
Heads.
Tails never fails. Okay then, so the dice roll will come out. Did you say your heads?
Yeah.
So your evens. Hengist, your odds.
Go on, give me. Yes.
2. And they sort of say, we might save the plumper one for later. Let's take the skinny one. And they bring in what appears to be almost like a long stick.
No.
And you suddenly realise that the stick has some kind of rope-like loop on the end. And quite deftly, they open the door of the cage while one of them pushes you, Hengist, back to the far end with the pole.
Angus is going to be fighting it as best as he can.
Okay, then. So sure as you start to fight it, they just bash you with this this club, and you take 5 points of damage to your head. Remember, you have no armor on. What's it up to?
1.
Yes, so you had 6 to start off with, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they sort of like bash it against you, and you sort of like stumble back. What do you wish to do?
He's probably like quite dazed, but he's probably, if he's fallen on like his side, he's going to try and right himself, and he'll resist, but he is not going to fight back. So if he'll push pressure back onto the pole, but he won't fight it anymore.
Yeah, and it's actually quite. They've just got it here in that little delve, and so even pushing back on it is actually causing you more harm than them. And Hengist is held back, Hazra. They slip the ropes over your head and sort of like bring you out into what appears to be a opening in the middle of the field. So they've seemed to have sort of like made a circle, and you are brought into that circle at the far end, and you see at the other side this huge boar-like humanoid. He sort of like stands over 6 foot tall, and you notice that he's got huge big tusks, and he sort of like is flexing his arms and his shoulders and his back muscles and everything, and he's shirtless. He's just got his trousers on, and you can see that he's just got muscle on top of muscle. And you can see that roundabout as you sort of like walk in, still with these ropes around your neck. You get into the circle, and you sort of like glance around, and you see silver coins exchanging hands, and some of them are sort of like laughing and pointing at you, and some of them are sort of like cheering on this big brute of a boarkin, if we call them that. And you see him, he's sort of like this, and everybody's sort of like cheering at him. And one of your captors sort of like says to you, he says, "Don't worry, we won't let him kill you, just probably hurt you a lot." And
I may try, but I'm quite a wily person.
The other one says, "Don't try to run away, 'cause we'll just kill you." And they sort of like take the nooses off your neck, and you're sort of like stood almost in the middle as this huge brute sort of like paces backwards and forwards, and there's a lot of jeering going on in the crowd, as you're there.
I'll shout across again. Put 2 silvers on me, please.
Could you please roll for me your initiative?
Oh dear. Actually, it's my token. Sorry.
It's all right. I can add you on.
I'll cheer for you in my mind, not with my mouth.
Yeah,
My
so the rest
Look
of
at
you
me.
can almost like hear that there's something going on. You can see it, Hengist. The rest of you can hear it. Let me just roll.
Can I just say, I took your place. This
Do you want
was
to know,
not-
but when they said about who was going to step forward, I so wanted Hengist to sort of like sort of like push you to one side or just
Yeah, take
stand
me.
in front of you.
I know. I did it too subtly. That's what the smile was for. But,
Okay, so you remember, Hazra, you will normally have 3 action points, won't you?
Yes.
But now you only have 2.
Yep.
Okay, so just remember that when you are adding things together. So the first thing, you can see that I'm going first, and the first thing he does is close in on you on round 1, turn 1. That's his action point. What do you wish to do? You act next.
So he's right next to me, so no weapons whatsoever. So
No.
I will.
So you're rolling unarmed combat, which was that something that you put money in, points in to start off with?
No, I fumbled, so I took a point anyway.
Oh yes, so cool. Yeah.
So I will do an combat. Well,
Hengist
to be fair,
Hengist did, yeah.
Yeah.
could I use athletics to try and trip him up as he comes in?
That is number
That's
one.
running and climbing, isn't it?
Yeah, and number 1, he's not moving past you. You can grapple if you wish, which again is just like an unarmed attack roll. And if you win and I lose, you do a hit location, and then it's assumed that you have grabbed hold of that part of the body.
Nope, I'll just punch him.
Okay, off you go then. Yeah, so you sort of like take this as he steps towards you. You take this almighty swing at it, and he just does the classic. He just goes back, and it just goes right through past his face. And as you're sort of like doing, I presume you're right-handed, so you're taking the block like that. He just sees you go right, and he just takes his hand. And this is his second action point, and so we're on turn 2 now. He just takes the back of his hand, and he literally just whacks you.
Wow!
And goes boom like that. He doesn't seem to have clenched a fist. He's just
Backhand slap.
Yeah. What do you wish to do?
I would like to try to evade that, please, if possible.
Yeah, so this will, if you're successful, then it will put you on the floor, probably to one side and prone.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
It won't be successful, so it doesn't really matter.
It might be. No, it's not successful.
No.
So he sort of like hits you. He sort of like at the last moment, as his arm comes along, he sort of like comes down and he whacks you on your thigh, probably just a little bit above your knee, and he sort of like hits you, and you actually take this says, just so you know, it says unarmed stroke tusk, or tusk stroke unarmed. Okay, that's what it says, but it's the same sort of damage. Okay,
right leg.
You take 5 points of damage to your right leg.
Wow. Yep.
Is it still a minor wound?
No. Yes, it's not 0 yet.
Okay, yeah, so as long as you're in positive, just let me know when it gets to below 0. So that's round 2. You don't have any more actions left, don't you?
No, I don't. No.
Okay, however, he still has 1.
I thought so.
So he sort of like whacks you on your leg, and you feel your leg comes back, and he sort of like reverses the blow and just strikes back, not sort of like bothering at all. And this whacks you with. I love my dice rolls today. 8 and 9. If the next one's a 10.
That's like I had earlier.
Yeah. And he sees that he's damaged your right leg slightly.
Probably stamps on it.
And he's just sort of he just sort of like stamps it once again. And here's the damage on it. So yeah, you take 4 points of damage.
Yeah, I'm -3.
Okay then, so you've got a serious wound now, so you need to roll an endurance test. My original roll was 9, so at least when you roll, you need to match the formidable, okay? And then if you are successful on the formidable, you need to get higher than 9.
Right.
Okay, because you got to beat my original score.
There we go.
No,
So,
big
formidable endurance.
Yeah.
Nope.
Do you wish to use luck?
I've got no luck left, sorry.
Okay, yeah, so he just sort of like whacks you, and you suddenly notice that he hasn't got the open hand anymore. He's actually got a fist, and it whacks into that thigh muscle on your quad, and you just feel that leg suddenly go numb. As he's dead leg, as he stun locations it with his special, and you whack onto it, and you collapse to the ground.
Just before I pass out, if I do pass out, I will say,
No, you
coward, I have no food or drink. You cannot fight the company.
so you're now prone on the ground, sort of like shouting out taunts to him, and we move on to combat round 2, turn 1, and he's sort of like walking around going a bit like Big Beastie in the ring when he was winning, going like that, and everybody's cheering, and some people are sort of like laughing, pointing at you and laughing at you, and other people are sort of like you can hear them saying, "Get up, pansy!" Like this at you, and you're sort of like rolling around on the floor. You've got one leg.
Mummy.
Yeah, this is where you could stand up on one leg and do a crane kick.
I've not learned to wax on or wax on.
I don't need that. Just do the crane kick. Just pretend you've been practicing on a groin by the seaside. Yes, what do you wish to do?
I will crawl up onto my one leg while hopping gently.
Okay.
And I will wait for his...
Okay, I'm going to ask you to make a brawn roll for me. Before you roll it, if you succeed, you can stand up. If you don't succeed, then your leg's in too much pain and you literally can't get up at all.
Yeah.
It's a shame. Do you want to know if you still had luck?
Look, I know. Luck points.
That would be absolutely fantastic. Yeah. So you try to get up, but your leg is not actually working at all. And one of the humans stands up and sort of like points at him, and you hear him shout out to the guy, the Boar King. He just says, "Winner!" like that, and there's a huge amount of cheering and everything, and 2 of the guards come back, and they don't pick you up or anything. They just sort of like put this noose back over your head and literally drag you, and you can feel it almost like garrotting you, but they seem to know exactly when to stop, and you sort of like get thrown back in and tied back up, then thrown back in, and then there's a whole load of frivolity and cheering around the campfire, and they sort of like bring over to you sort of like what appears to be moist little rags, and they seem to be on the edge of like sticks, and they sort of like stick it into your cave, your cage for Hengist and Hazra, and you can see, as sure as you see it, you understand that it's moisture and water, and in the fatigue state that you're in, you know you must have this to survive, and sort of like not bite down on it, but almost like suck the moisture out of it. And you can look over and you see that some of the humans have gone into Gulliver's and Bartleby's cage, and the other wizard, who you presume is the other wizard, and they sort of like squeeze water onto the mouth gag, so it cascades down. And Bartleby and Gulliver, you suddenly think, "Oh my God, water!" and quickly drink as much of it down as you can, mainly to almost like stay alive, if nothing else. And you suddenly realize your mistake, as suddenly your minds begin to falter, and within almost like seconds, with the background noise still resounding in your ears, that seems to be people laughing and jeering and having a wonderful time. You almost like feel that you're a person that's been left out of the party, and before long you lapse once again into unconsciousness. And again, time seems to pass, and Bartleby, you again continue to have what appears to be a reoccurring dream. It's on loop, and it's exactly the same thing with the moon being cascaded down in white, in the being cast over in darkness. And you're not too sure, Bartleby, but you could swear that you almost like heard Ben's voice at times. And then again, after a period of darkness, you wake up again, and the first thing that you all notice that you're quite badly battered and bruised. You haven't been beaten up. It just looks like you've been moved. Okay? And you suddenly feel that you're not actually in a wagon anymore. None of you are. And you definitely feel as if you've got some kind of paving slabs or some kind of rock underneath you as you sit and as you wake up. And the first thing, when you wake up, the first thing that you notice, Gulliver and Bartleby, is that your hands are still tied. You still got something in your mouth, but your blindfolds have been removed. And Hazra and Hengist, you've got your hands are tied, but you're not blindfolded or gagged, and you come awake in the following place. Now, just so can you all see something?
Yes.
Let me zoom out. Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, so dynamic lighting is on just for the stream. This is what each of them can see. So this is what player Gulliver can actually see. This is what player Bartleby can see. This is what Hazra can see.
I see dead people.
And this is what Hengist can see. Okay, so just to let you know, before you get excited, these are bars with a shadow on. Okay, this is where the entrance is, but it's closed. Okay, but that's where the door is. You can actually, this gap here, okay, there's like a wall that goes up to almost like your chest if you were stood up, and then there's bars to the ceiling again, so that's why the dynamic lighting is lighting that up. Yeah. This
taunts us with food.
This here is definitely some kind of weird contraption for, you figure, some kind of torture.
Sleeping.
And
Not food then.
and this seems to be a table and stools. You also notice that there's no sort of like knives out or anything like that. You can see that outside your rooms, your cells, there is like a table and 2 stools out there as well. The light that is coming in is from flaming torches on the walls, and you should be able to see those. These are a set of small stairs that comes up to here. So this is actually higher than that bit. Is there anything else? Some of you will be able to see over here.
Yeah.
Okay, so what that seems to be, it's almost as if you think that beyond there, there's almost like a circular cell, and the only thing that you can really think about is some kind of arena or something like that. And as you sort of like come to and you start to move, you notice that one of the humans that you've seen before, Hazra and Hengist, come to this part, and he looks like he's coming down, but he sees that you are awake, and he almost like tuts and heads off. And about 20 minutes later, he returns, and there's 2 humans and 2 of these Boar King people, and they take up positions, 1 human and 1 Boar King. I'll just put them on as crosses, like there and there, there and there. Okay, and they sort of like almost like take up guards. They seem to be carrying some kind of spear, each one of them, but they look, Hengist, you figured that they look very combat worthy. And then somebody comes and stands up here. He's dressed in black, but this guy doesn't have his face covered up with eye slits up. He seems to have like a cowl, a hood, and then he seems to have one of those metal masks covering his face. And he sort of like walks in, and he doesn't go down the stairs or anything like this. That he gets to this part, and he sort of like talks from behind his mask, and he says, "You are here and alive only until my master arrives. Until then, enjoy our hospitality." And you notice that next to him, there's a sort of like a young woman, sort of like stood next to him, sort of like with her arms sort of like almost like draped over his shoulders. She's wearing clothes, but very few, and she is looking at him extremely, almost like worshipping him. As if he's an idol, or somebody that she really looks up to. And he then says, you're only here, etc., etc. And then he says, "We will see what the master says." And he turns to leave, and the guards go up the stairs, and the girl turns around and heads out. And just as she heads out, she looks into Hazra's and Hengist's cell, and you suddenly realise, Hengist, it's your sister.
I thought so.
And they sort of like walk out with her draped over this, idolising this man, and the guards follow him out and leave you back in your actual dark or semi-darkness of your cell.
with Hengist just having a huge belly laugh, not a happy laugh, but sort of like a laugh across between pure joy because he's finally seen his sister and pure despair because of the situation.
Yeah.
And
What are there any stools? Sorry,
I think
are they
he's finished now, Rich.
So,
so we will pick this up. We will pick this up next week for the next part of the adventure. So I'm going to move you now back onto the starting screen. And there you go. And off. So
I was so hoping in Wills you're going to do a second round of the little entertainment thing in the previous evening.
Oh no!
Because I'd come up with a line as well to sort of like if they dragged Hengist out, Hengist would have gone. Now you've had the warm up. Now it's time for the main event.
Yeah. So So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you are. It's really. I find it really interesting now because if you were in D&D, you would just be having disadvantage on your rolls, but in Mithras,
it hurts.
Yes, you really are exhausted, completely.
It's brilliant. It's a great rule set.
It is. Yeah. It is a really, really good system.
Well, yeah, and I hope you enjoyed the adventure today. I hope it had. I hope you understand what's happening. Well.
Oh, yeah. I'm getting that.
My leg, but anyway.
Yeah. So, okay. Anything that anybody would like to say, either about the adventure or anything else that they would like to announce?
No.
Loved it tonight. Well done. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got some dreams to work on during the week and just ponder what my goddess is trying to. Why is my goddess torturing me? That's my question this week.
Torturing you or informing you?
Well, it's sometimes the same thing.
Yeah, well, a lot of the time it's the same thing. And I have to actually say, I actually spent some time when I was on holiday, well, still on holiday, writing down a whole load of visions that I could use. So if all of a sudden I need one, that I sort of like, they might say something, but they might say nothing. So brilliant.
To be fair, Mr. Battleby, it's this little black and white ball. He shakes.
Yeah, it is. And then I've just got 10 of them down here, and I think, which one shall I have? This one. It's like you will meet a tall, dark stranger somewhere in your life, and then that's it. So
that's just fortune.
Even more cryptic.
Yeah. So next week we will start off with you in the cells of the whatever, and we can go from there. So I will be back streaming tomorrow some ESO at 2:00 in the afternoon, 1400 hours BST time, and we will be back on Tuesday night playing some Shadowrun. And then on Thursday night, we will be back playing a new investigation for Call of Cthulhu, which will be a nice new fresh start for people, minus Mr. Webber, who sadly is rocking away. And then we will be back next Saturday when you can see how the party decide to get out of this one. It'd be very interesting. Thank you very much for coming along tonight. I really do hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to follow and promote the stream. It would be absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much. I only like to leave you with one thing. Please remember to be who you are and say what you feel, because the people who mind don't matter and the people who matter don't mind. Have fun, guys, and we will catch you later. And until then, consider yourself well and truly waffled. Have fun, guys. Bye.